Chapter 734. Shui Zhijing turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a smile, "Vice Master Zhang, I think LV Hushan is right. Why don't we do it this way?" Shui Zhijing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him. Instead, he scanned the crowd and continued to speak without waiting for Zhang Chunren's reply. "Since everyone has agreed, I'm going to make a move now. You guys should get ready too." Shui Zhijing turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, you have to be careful later, okay?" When Yuan Weiqing heard Shui Zhijing's question, he trembled and nodded. Zhang Chunren suddenly said, "Home Master Shui, if that's the case, I think this plan can be improved." Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Shui Zhijing's reply and continued to speak. "Home Master Shui, think about it. LV Hushan's technique isn't as good as mine. If we let LV Hushan block the front while the two of us stay behind to attack Etianhua, I think we'll have a better chance." Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was taken aback. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can I do that? My martial arts are not as good as yours. If I stand in front of you, I might ruin your plan. I think it's best for me to stay at the back." Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren smiled faintly. "LV Hushan, you don't understand. I have a special technique that can exert a greater effect. If I stay at the back, I will definitely be more useful than you. In order to have a better chance of capturing Etianhua, I think it's best for me to stay at the back. LV Hushan, don't you think so?" After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, I also have a special technique that is quite powerful. If you let me stay at the back, I can assure you that I can definitely injure Etianhua within 2 rounds with Hall Master Shui. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you can rest assured that there won't be any problems." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and said indifferently, "LV Hushan, do you think your technique is better than mine?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's displeased question, LV Hushan jumped in fright. If it were any other time, he would definitely shrink back and not dare to continue speaking with Zhang Chunren. But it was different now. If he didn't speak, he would directly face Etianhua's attack. Although Shui Zhijing's analysis was on point, no one could guarantee that Shui Zhijing's analysis wouldn't be wrong. If there was a mistake, it would be over. Therefore, LV Hushan could only force a smile and say, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, you have to believe me. My technique is definitely better than yours. I have practiced this technique for 10 years. I believe that Etianhua can't escape from my technique." Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren's frown deepened. He knew very well how dangerous it was for LV Hushan to stand in front of him. The most important thing was that Zhang Chunren and Etianhua had a grudge or dispute. Although Shui Zhijing said that he would be fine, Zhang Chunren was a cautious person. How would he take this risk? Therefore, he couldn't stand in front of Etianhua. Zhang Chunren knew very well that if Etianhua killed him, then the grudge between them would naturally be resolved. Maybe Shui Zhijing and Etianhua would reconcile. Then, wouldn't he be lost in vain? Just now, Zhang Chunren spoke so fiercely because everyone had agreed that Shui Zhijing would stand in front of him. It was precisely because of this reason that Zhang Chunren was fearless. Anyway, the first unlucky one wouldn't be him. What was there to be afraid of? But now it was different. Zhang Chunren was sure that Shui Zhijing was absolutely right. Etianhua's first target would definitely be him. Zhang Chunren didn't know how high Etianhua's martial arts were before, but when he saw Etianhua display his martial arts just now, he understood how high Etianhua's martial arts were. It was precisely because he understood that Zhang Chunren didn't dare to stand in front of him. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, "LV Hushan, although your technique is okay, I'm afraid it's still lacking compared to mine." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer him and continued. "LV Hushan, you have to know that Etianhua's martial arts are quite high. We have to go all out. If there's even the slightest mistake, all 4 of us will be finished. In order to be more confident, I think it's better for you to stand in front. Hall Master Shui and I will stay behind. This way, the chances will be greater. After saying this, Zhang Chunren saw that LV Hushan still wanted to argue, so he hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, don't say anymore. This matter is settled. Seeing that Zhang Chunren actually forced this matter to be settled, although LV Hushan was dissatisfied, he couldn't say anything. He could only turn to look at Shui Zhijing and murmur, Hall Master Shui, my technique is really amazing. Please believe me. If you let me stay behind, I will definitely be able to play a greater role. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Shui Zhijing nodded. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I think what LV Hushan said makes sense. He said that he has a special technique. Maybe it really is useful. Otherwise, let him stay behind. You and Yuan Weiqing will stand in front. What do you think? After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. He then shook his head. Hall Master Shui, how can this be? LV Hushan's martial arts are not as good as mine. Even if he knows some technique, in terms of power, it definitely can't be compared to my technique. Hall Master Shui, you have seen how high Yi Tianhua's martial arts are. We have to gather all our strength to defeat him. So I think it's better to let LV Hushan stay in front and the two of us stay behind. This is the best combination, don't you think so? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Shui Zhijing nodded. He turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, you have heard Vice Hall Master Zhang's words. Do you think what he said makes sense? Hearing Shui Zhijing's question, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment. He then shook his head. Hall Master Shui, I don't think it's appropriate. Although Vice Hall Master Zhang's martial arts are better than mine, his technique is not necessarily better than mine. So I think it's best for me to stay behind. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and said with a displeased face, LV Hushan, do you think that my martial arts are not as good as yours? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, how is that possible? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused. He rolled his eyes and continued, Vice Hall Master Zhang, it is precisely because your martial arts are high that you should stay in front. Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. Yi Tianhua's martial arts are high. With my level of martial arts, I'm afraid that I will be defeated by him in one move. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you are different. With your martial arts, even if Yi Tianhua attacks with all his strength, you will probably be able to withstand 2 or 3 moves. You will not be defeated by Yi Tianhua in one move. As long as you can withstand 2 or 3 moves, Hall Master Shui, and I will naturally be able to seize the opportunity to attack from behind. Who knows, we might even be able to injure Yi Tianhua in the first round of attacks. Wouldn't that be great? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question and continued to speak. Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. If Yuan Weiqing and I are in front, I'm afraid that we won't even be able to withstand one move and will be defeated by Yi Tianhua. At that time, you and Hall Master Shui, who are hiding in the back, will have no chance to attack. Vice Hall Master Zhang, for the sake of the big picture, I think that you should be in front and block Yi Tianhua. This is the best choice. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren could not help but be taken aback. After regaining his senses, he sneered and said, LV Hushan, I really didn't expect you to be so good at talking. You analyze this matter so clearly. It's really unexpected. Hearing Zhang Chunren's praise, LV Hushan did not look happy at all. Instead, he became a little nervous. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this is just a small opinion of mine. Compared to yours, it is far inferior. Please don't laugh at me. Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, this is not a small opinion of yours. I think it's pretty good. Let the two of us stand in front and you hide in the back. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for LV Hushan to reply, he snorted and shouted sternly, LV Hushan, since you say that it's so powerful, then let me ask you, what is the name of your technique? Who taught you? How did you practice it? Tell me everything clearly. Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, my technique is called the 1,000 Transformations Hands. My master taught me. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing. I've practiced this technique for 10 years, but I don't usually use it, so you haven't seen it before, Deputy Hall Master Zhang. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered and nodded. 1,000 Transformations Hands, right? LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. Yes, it is indeed called the 1,000 Transformations Hands. Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and asked with a smile, LV Hushan, I remember that your master practiced palm techniques. When did it become a technique? After hearing Zhang Chunren's question, before LV Hushan could answer, Yuan Weiqing, who had been silent all this time, suddenly asked loudly. LV Hushan, Vice Hall Master Zhang is right. Your master obviously practiced palm techniques. He also taught you palm techniques. Why have I never heard of you practicing any finger techniques? After hearing the two's question, LV Hushan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, Yuan Weiqing, the reason why you don't know this technique is because I have never used it in front of you. That's why you don't know. After hearing LV Hushan's explanation, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. No, it has been so many years. If you knew this technique, how could we not have heard of it? LV Hushan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead again and said with a forced smile, Yuan Weiqing, do you think I would lie to you? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing nodded. LV Hushan, I do suspect that you are lying to me because I have never heard of you practicing this technique. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he suddenly exclaimed and turned to look at LV Hushan. He asked in a trembling voice, LV Hushan, are you lying to us because you don't dare to stand in front of us? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, LV Hushan was taken aback and hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, how can you say that? Why would I lie to you? I really know how to use this technique. That's why I left it behind. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, since you know this technique, why have we never heard of it? LV Hushan shook his head. Haven't I already said that I have never used it, and I have never mentioned it? Naturally, you wouldn't know. Just as LV Hushan's voice fell, Zhang Chunren suddenly opened his mouth and said, LV Hushan, I have never heard of your technique. Not only that, I also know your master, but I have never heard of your master's technique. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he snorted coldly and continued to speak. LV Hushan, could it be that you created this technique yourself? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan was suddenly stunned. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Looking at LV Hushan's face that had become a little pale, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, let me ask you. Your master doesn't know this technique, but you know it. Why is that? Can you tell us? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing asked doubtfully, LV Hushan, is what Vice Hall Master Zhang said true? Does your master really not know this technique? Zhang Chunren didn't wait for LV Hushan to speak and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, I think LV Hushan doesn't know any technique. What he said is false. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment before he continued. As for his purpose of lying, of course, it is because he is afraid. LV Hushan, am I right? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, more cold sweat appeared on LV Hushan's forehead. After thinking for a while, he shook his head vigorously and replied in a trembling voice, No, I didn't lie to you. What I said is true. My technique is really brilliant. As long as I stay behind, I can definitely defeat Etianhua. Seeing LV Hushan's panicked look, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, look at you now. Who can you defeat? I think you can't defeat anyone except yourself. How do you expect us to trust you? Chapter 735. LV Hushan trembled when he heard Zhang Chunren's question. He hurriedly explained, Vice Hall Leader Zhang, I'm not afraid. I was seriously injured by Tianhua just now, and it's still a little inconvenient for me to move. If I stand in front, I'm afraid I'll delay everyone. Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth. LV Hushan, even if you're seriously injured, the three of us will stand in front of you. What's there to be afraid of? Yuan Weiqing also said loudly, LV Hushan, Vice Hall Leader Zhang is right. Although you're seriously injured, it won't affect your movement. I think it's better for you to stay in front. Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. LV Hushan, your injury is fine, but mine is serious. I only have one arm left. Even if I stay in front, it won't be of much use. Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing, so I've decided to stay in the back and attack Tianhua with Hall Leader Shui with the Thunderbolt Ball. LV Hushan was shocked when he heard this. He stared blankly at Yuan Weiqing and couldn't speak for a long time. Shui Zhijing turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, you want to stay in the back? Yuan Weiqing nodded confidently and raised his broken arm. Hall Leader Shui, as you can see, I only have one arm left. I only have 20 to 30% of my martial arts left. Even if I stay in the front, I won't be of much use. On the contrary, if I stay in the back, I'll be more useful. Hall Leader Shui, don't you think so? Shui Zhijing smiled and nodded after hearing Yuan Weiqing's words. Yuan Weiqing, what you said makes sense. Your arm is injured and you're not fit to fight. Shui Zhijing paused for a moment, but before Yuan Weiqing could answer his question, he turned to Zhang Chunren and said with a smile, Don't worry, Zhang Chunren. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, you heard what Yuan Weiqing said. Yuan Weiqing's arm is injured and he's not fit to fight. Why don't we let him stay in the back? What do you think? After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren looked at Yuan Weiqing with some annoyance. Yuan Weiqing, what do you mean? Are you afraid to? After hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Vice Hall Master Zhang, how could I be afraid? If my arm was intact, I definitely wouldn't be afraid of Tianhua. But now that I've lost an arm, even if I wanted to fight with Tianhua, I'm afraid I wouldn't be of much use. Since that's the case, I might as well stay at the back and play a greater role. Vice Hall Master Zhang, am I right? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if we all hide at the back, then let me ask you, how are we going to deal with Tianhua? Yuan Weiqing shook his head and said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you can't say that. You and LV Hushan are already in the front. What do I have to worry about? Deputy Hall Master Zhang, don't worry. As long as the two of you are in the front, Hall Master Shui and I will definitely succeed as soon as possible. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, if it's just the two of us in the front, I'm afraid we won't be able to stop Tianhua's attack. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I think it's better to let Yuan Weiqing in the front. This way, we will have a greater chance. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. He asked in a low voice, Yuan Weiqing, I want you to be in the front. Do you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I also want to be in the front, but I can't. I only have one arm left. How can I block Tianhua's attack? Even if I'm in the front, if I can't block one or two of Tianhua's attacks, what's the use? It's better to stay in the back. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Shui Zhijing smiled and said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, Yuan Weiqing is right. He only has one arm left. Even if he stays in the front, it doesn't seem to be of much use. I think it's better to let him stay in the back. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Hall Master Shui, if we all stay in the back, how can we block Tianhua's attack? If we all stay in the back, won't our plan be messed up? Maybe we will be defeated one by Tianhua. At that time, not only will we not be able to catch Tianhua, but we will also be defeated by him. What should we do then? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Shui Zhijing smiled bitterly and shook his head. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, you heard Deputy Hall Master Zhang's words. Why don't you listen to him and stay in the front? I think that Tianhua will show mercy when he sees that you are injured. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head. Hall Master Xue, I can't. I only have one arm left. I only have 20 to 30% of my martial arts left. If I stay in the front, won't I be killed by Tianhua very quickly? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren still smiled and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, didn't you hear what Hall Master Xue said just now? Even if Tianhua's martial arts are strong, he definitely won't have the heart to kill you after seeing your broken arm. Therefore, I think that you should be the safest person among us. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head and smiled bitterly. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I understand what you're saying. However, what if Tianhua is that kind of heartless person? Won't I be in trouble? Zhang Chunren laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, if Tianhua is heartless, I'm afraid that you would have been killed by him just now. Why would you wait until now? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. That was just then. This is now. Just now is our first battle, so he showed mercy. However, this is the second time. I'm afraid that he won't show mercy. If he really attacks me with all his strength, I'll be in trouble. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's reply, Zhang Chunren frowned and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, don't forget that we are doing this for you. If not for the sake of helping you stand up, why would we attack Tianhua? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I know that you have good intentions. However, if I'm killed by Tianhua, all our efforts will be in vain. Therefore, for safety's sake, it's better for me to stay at the back. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing smiled and nodded. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, Yuan Weiqing is right. If he's killed, all our efforts will be in vain. I also think that he should stay at the back. Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth. Hall Master Xue, Tianhua's martial arts are strong. Even if the four of us go all out, we might not be able to stop him. However, if everyone hides at the back, there's no need to fight this battle. Won't we lose? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, how can that be? With you and LV Hushan at the front, I don't believe that you two won't be able to block Tianhua's attack. Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, don't worry. As long as you and LV Hushan block Tianhua's attack, Hall Master Xue and I will definitely be able to defeat Tianhua as soon as possible. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren was so angry that he was speechless. Seeing this, Xue Zhijing hurriedly said with a smile, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, since you've already agreed, this matter is settled. Yuan Weiqing and I will hide at the back and attack Tianhua with Thunderbolt pills. You and LV Hushan will stand at the front and prevent Tianhua from attacking us. Xue Zhijing turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and asked with a smile, Zhang Chunren, what do you think of this matter that I mentioned? If possible, we can start now. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. However, before he could say anything, LV Hushan said loudly, Hall Master Xue, I was also seriously injured just now. I can't use much of my martial arts. Even if I stand at the front, I'm afraid that I won't be able to stop Tianhua. It will be terrible if that happens. LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing, Hall Master Xue, I think it's better for me to stay at the back and attack Tianhua with you guys. Only then will I be able to do my best. What do you think? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren was so angry that he almost jumped up. He suddenly turned his head to look at LV Hushan and asked in a trembling voice, LV Hushan, if you also hide at the back, I will be the only one left in front. Do you think that I can block Tianhua's attack by myself? Hearing Zhang Chunren's angry roar, LV Hushan was shocked. However, at such a critical moment, he couldn't change his words and could only force a smile. Vice Hall Master Zhang, Hall Master Xue just said that Tianhua's first target will be you. Moreover, Hall Master Shui also said that Tianhua will definitely not hit you hard. So don't worry. As long as you stand at the front and block him for a moment, the three of us will use this opportunity to attack Tianhua with all our might. I believe that with the three of us attacking together, Tianhua will definitely not be able to dodge. At that time, won't we be able to catch Tianhua? Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't you think so? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned. For a moment, he was so angry that he couldn't speak. Seeing that Zhang Chunren was silent, Shui Zhijing smiled and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what LV Hushan said makes sense. Tianhua feels guilty towards you, so he definitely won't hit you hard. At that time, with the strength of the three of us, we should be able to defeat Tianhua in the first round of attacks. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you just need to stand at the front for a moment. I think this battle should be over. What do you think? After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren was about to fly into a rage. According to the original plan, Shui Zhijing would stand at the front because his martial arts were the highest, and he had the most confidence to block Tianhua's attack. The remaining three people would mainly attack Tianhua from behind. According to this plan, the person in danger should be Shui Zhijing, and the remaining three people would be in relatively less danger. The most important thing was that even if Tianhua broke through Shui Zhijing's defense, Zhang Chunren was not afraid because among the remaining three people, his martial arts were the highest. Moreover, as Shui Zhijing said, Tianhua felt guilty towards him, so he could basically conclude that anyone could be killed by Tianhua. Only he was the safest. But if they arranged according to the latest strategy, then the person in the most danger would be himself. Tianhua did feel guilty towards him, but Tianhua could hold back once. If there were others, Tianhua might attack them, but he was the only one in front. Even if Tianhua wanted to change his target, he had no choice. The most important thing was that Zhang Chunren didn't believe that the three people standing behind him could defeat Tianhua in one round of attacks. Since they couldn't defeat Tianhua in one round, then he would definitely face the danger of being killed by Tianhua. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth and turned to look at Shui Zhijing. He smiled and said, Hall Master Shui, I think it's best for me to stay at the back. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Shui Zhijing was stunned. After a while, he asked tentatively, Zhang Chunren, if you also hide in the back, then there will be no one in front. What if Tianhua rushes over? What should we do? Shui Zhijing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to reply, and continued. Vice Hall Master Zhang, if there's no one in front to block Tianhua, then the four of us will immediately be in danger. When that happens, we will definitely lose. So, we need someone in front to block Tianhua for us to have a chance of winning. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren smiled and shook his head. Hall Master Shui, we do need someone in front to block Tianhua. At this point, Zhang Chunren paused, turned his head, and glanced at the few people in front of him before continuing. But the person who stays at the front is definitely not me, because there's a more suitable candidate than me. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan exclaimed almost at the same time and asked in trembling voices, Vice Hall Master Zhang, who are you talking about? After saying this, the two of them stared at Zhang Chunren closely, afraid that they would say their names. Hearing the two of them, Zhang Chunren smiled faintly and said slowly, This person is LV Hushan. After hearing Zhang Chunren's answer, LV Hushan suddenly exclaimed and asked in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can this be? Why am I the most suitable person to stay at the front? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused and forced a smile. Vice Hall Master Zhang, actually, I'm not suitable. Chapter 736. LV Hushan forced a smile and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, my martial arts skills are not high. If I stand in front, I won't be Tianhua's match. I might even cause trouble. How can I stand in front? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren shook his head. LV Hushan, you're wrong. What we want is for you to stand in front, not for you to fight with Etionhua. In terms of fighting, none of us is a match for Etionhua. Speaking up to this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for LV Hushan's reply and snorted coldly before continuing. LV Hushan, as long as you stand in front, I believe that Etionhua will not be ruthless in the first attack because he is still thinking about reconciliation. Therefore, you don't have to worry too much. You just need to stand in front of him and not let him rush to our side. Do you understand? At that time, as long as Etionhua pauses for a moment, the three of us will immediately attack him together. I believe that with the three of us working together, we will definitely be able to injure Etionhua in one attack. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan shook his head. Vice Master Zhang, what if Etionhua really makes a move? Won't I be in danger? Zhang Chunren sneered as he shook his head. LV Hushan, you don't have to worry. I can guarantee you that Etionhua will absolutely not injure you in this first attack because he doesn't know our objective. So I'm sure that he will absolutely not use his full strength in this round of attacks. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan frowned. He turned to look at Etionhua in the distance and then looked at the long sword in his hand. He suddenly remembered the dazzling sword light just now and could not help but be shocked. He hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren and waved his hand. No, what if Etionhua doesn't listen to you and attacks me heavily? Wouldn't I be in too much danger? No. After hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren sighed. LV Hushan, let me tell you, among the four of us, your martial arts are the weakest. Even if Etionhua attacks, you don't have enough strength. In that case, why don't you block Etionhua and let us attack with all our strength? Hearing this, LV Hushan hurriedly turned to point at Yuan Weiqing and said, Vice Master Zhang, Yuan Weiqing's kung fu is not as good as mine. I think he should stay in the front. When Yuan Weiqing heard LV Hushan's words, he immediately became furious. LV Hushan, let me ask you, between the two of us, whose martial arts is higher? LV Hushan and Yuan Weiqing were startled. They hurriedly waved their hands and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, your martial arts used to be higher than mine, but now that you are injured, you are definitely not my opponent. If you block the front, I will attack Etionhua from behind. This is the best choice. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, I can't. I've already attacked Etionhua once. If I block the front again, I am afraid that Etionhua will be angry and attack me heavily. Then I will be in danger. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, you're wrong. Didn't you hear what Vice Hall Leader Zhang said? In the first attack, Etionhua will definitely not be heavy-handed because he doesn't know that we want to capture him. In order to not cause a fight between the two gangs, he will definitely not be heavy-handed. You can rest assured. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head. LV Hushan, you are wrong. I just attacked Etionhua and made him agree to my various conditions. I am afraid that he hates me now. If I block the front and he takes the opportunity to take revenge, wouldn't that be terrible? LV Hushan smiled and waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. Etionhua is not someone who doesn't know the severity of the situation. He should know that if he wants to use his full strength, it will cause a fight between the two gangs. I think that as the boss of the South County Shadow Alliance, he definitely doesn't want to see this happen. Therefore, your worry is unnecessary. He will definitely not attack you heavily. He is just trying to scare you. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, but what if Etionhua really attacks heavily? What should I do? Won't I be in trouble? LV Hushan waved his hand and said with a smile, How can that be? Do you think that Etionhua is willing to cause a fight between the two gangs? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, if Etionhua wants to do this again, he wouldn't have to explain to us for so long. It is precisely because he doesn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs that he has been trying to reconcile with us. Yuan Weiqing, you really don't have to worry. Etionhua definitely won't attack heavily. He definitely won't hurt you. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, it's useless no matter what you say. I don't believe it no matter what. I'm just worried that if Yi Tianhua attacks me heavily, I definitely won't be able to block it with my martial arts. At that time, even if you want to save me, I'm afraid it will be too late. At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment before he continued. So I think it's safer for me to stay at the back. As for the front, I'll let you go. After hearing this sentence, LV Hushan was a little annoyed. Yuan Weiqing, you think it's very dangerous and don't want to block Yi Tianhua. Do you think I don't know that? Yi Tianhua's martial arts are so high. If I go forward to block him, I'm afraid I won't even be able to take one move and will be killed by Yi Tianhua. At that time, won't the unlucky one be me? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. I don't care. Anyway, I won't go forward to block him. It's too dangerous. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and complained, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you see, Yuan Weiqing's martial arts are not as high as mine now. Even if he stays at the back, he won't be of much use. But if he stays at the front, Yi Tianhua will definitely not attack him heavily, since he once injured him. I think it's more appropriate for him to stay at the front. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment and then shook his head. LV Hushan, for this matter, I also think it's best for you to stay at the front. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words. LV Hushan, I think you seem to be very nervous. In fact, you really don't have to worry. In the first attack, Yi Tianhua can attack heavily no matter what, because as long as he doesn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs, he won't attack heavily. So you don't have to worry. You're only blocking Yi Tianhua's path in front. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words. LV Hushan, as for Yuan Weiqing, why did he stay at the back? It's because one of his arms is broken. If he goes forward to fight, it will not be good for his injury. You also know that if he keeps moving, the wound on his arm will definitely relapse. If the wound on his arm flares up during the battle, wouldn't it delay our important matter? LV Hushan, don't you think so? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan frowned. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, but I'm also injured. If I go forward to fight, will my wound relapse? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, your injury is much lighter than Yuan Weiqing's. Even if you go forward to fight, although it may relapse, it won't affect your actions. So you can rest assured that it won't delay the battle. After listening to the words of the two, Xue Zhijing nodded with a smile. LV Hushan, you should have no objections. In this case, we must start the action. Speaking of this, Xue Zhijing's tone paused before continuing. LV Hushan, when I throw out the Thunderbolt Ball, you immediately go forward to block Yi Tianhua. Until we injure Yi Tianhua, the battle will be over. LV Hushan, are you ready? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, LV Hushan was taken aback. He hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Wait a minute, I have something to say. Xue Zhijing turned to look at LV Hushan and asked with a smile, LV Hushan, what else do you have to say? LV Hushan calmed down and said in a trembling voice, Hall Master Xue, let me block in front alone, and the three of you stay behind. Isn't this a bit inappropriate? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Xue Zhijing to answer his question, he snorted coldly and continued speaking. Hall, Master Xue, among the four of us, my martial arts are the weakest. Yet, you want me the weakest to stand at the front. Do you really think I can block Yi Tianhua's attack? After listening to LV Hushan's words, Xue Zhijing frowned. LV Hushan, didn't Vice Hall Master Zhang already tell you to block in front, and the three of us stay behind to attack Yi Tianhua? Hearing this, LV Hushan immediately turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a bitter smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, letting me block in front alone is really impossible. My martial arts are so weak. It is simply impossible for me to block Etianhua. Vice Master Zhang, you have to think clearly. Once Etianhua breaks through my line of defense, he will directly face you. At that time, Etianhua will be able to attack the three of you, and you won't have time to attack Etianhua. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but then he hurriedly panted a few times. Without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer his question, he continued speaking. Vice Master Zhang, if Etianhua breaks through my line of defense, I can guarantee that, just like Hall Master Shui said, his next target will definitely be you. At that time, Vice Master Zhang, do you think you can block Etianhua with your strength alone? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren could not help but frown, but at the same time, he suddenly realized that if Etianhua broke through LV Hushan's line of defense, his next target would definitely be him. If Etianhua was the first to attack, Etianhua might not be willing to be heavy-handed. However, if Etianhua was the second to attack, Zhang Chunren was not confident that Etianhua would not be heavy-handed. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren's forehead gradually broke out in cold sweat. He lowered his head and thought for a moment, then raised his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, what you said makes sense. It is indeed not appropriate for you to stand in front alone. If you can't block Etianhua, all of our plans will be useless. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, how about this? You and LV Hushan will stand in front together, while Hall Master Shui and I will stand behind. I think that, as long as we work together, we will definitely be able to capture Etianhua as soon as possible to realize your dream and allow you to stand up again. What do you think? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head. Vice Master Zhang, my arm is injured, so I can't fight. You just said that if I fight, the injury on my arm will relapse. At that time, it will be terrible. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren smiled and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I know that as long as you fight, the injury on your arm may relapse. However, don't forget that we decided to fight Etianhua because of you. At this point, Zhang Chunren paused before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, think about it carefully. In order to make you the second one-armed Saber King in South Commandery, how many gold coins and spiritual herbs do we need? And we have to rely on Etianhua to send all of these to us. If we don't capture Etianhua, we won't be able to fulfill these conditions. At that time, I'm afraid that you will be a cripple for the rest of your life. Don't you understand? Therefore, you can only go all out now. Although your arm is injured, you must overcome it. Otherwise, with just the three of us, it is absolutely impossible to capture Etianhua in exchange for those conditions for you. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing frowned and lowered his head to think for a moment. Then he looked up at Zhang Chunren and said with a wry smile, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, although I also want to be the second one-armed Saber King in South Commandery, the injury on my arm is really bad. As long as I make a move, the pain is unbearable. It doesn't matter if I go forward to block Etianhua, but I'm afraid that I'll delay your matter. If it affects your attack, wouldn't that be terrible? So, I think it's better for me to stay behind. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I know this is very difficult, but listen to me. Your injury is not a problem. As long as you are willing to work hard, you will definitely be able to persevere through this. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren stepped forward and patted Yuan Weiqing's shoulder. He smiled and said, Yuan Weiqing, I believe that you will definitely not let us down. Because you have never let us down before, I think that this time, you will definitely not let us down. Yuan Weiqing, am I right? Chapter 737. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head and raised his injured arm. He smiled bitterly and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, it's not that I don't want to pay, but the injury on my arm is too serious. You saw it too. If I don't move now, the injury will be lighter. But if I move, it will immediately affect my movements. Vice Hall Master Zhang, it's not that I don't want to block in front, but my injury is too serious. I really can't block in front. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a second before continuing. Deputy Head Zhang, I think it's good for LV Hushan to block the front alone. You just said that Tianhua would definitely not strike him hard in the first attack. Now that the one in front is just for show, even if LV Hushan's meritorious service is not high enough, it should not be a problem for him to act, right? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunrin couldn't help but frown. He turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, you heard Yuan Weiqing's words. I think it's better for you to stay in front. Anyway, Tianhua won't hurt you. What do you think? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, how can this be? What if Tianhua isn't like what you said? What if he doesn't hold back because he's afraid of causing a dispute between the two gangs? On the contrary, if we were to attack him and cause him to be infuriated, wouldn't it be terrible if he were to attack us from the start? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Zhang Chunrin to answer him and continued. Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, I think at least 2 of US should stay in the front. Of course, it would be better if all 3 of us stay in the front. If the 3 of us block in front, I believe that even if Tianhua goes all out, he won't be able to break through our defense line. At that time, with Hall Master Shue's martial arts, he should be able to defeat Tianhua. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, what do you think of this plan? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunrin frowned. LV Hushan, I'm afraid that Hall Master Shui alone won't be able to injure Tianhua in a short period of time. It's only possible if the 2 of us work together. Do you understand? Therefore, the 2 of us have to stay behind. Only with this kind of formation can we catch Tianhua. Zhang Chunrin paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continue to speak. As for Yuan Weiqing, you also know that his arm is injured. Even if he blocks in front, he won't be of much use. Rather than that, it's better to let him attack Rui Tianhua from the back. I think that's the most suitable for him. Therefore, I think that LV Hushan, the best way is for you to stay in front and block Tianhua's attack. The 3 of us will throw thunderbolt balls at Tianhua from the back. This is the best choice. Do you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, that won't do. I definitely won't be able to block Tianhua's attack by myself. When the time comes, Tianhua will definitely break through my defense line and attack all of you. Then, wouldn't all of our formation be wasted? Vice-Hall Master Zhang, in my opinion, it's better for the 3 of us to stay in front to block Tianhua's attack. After hearing this, Zhang Chunrin frowned and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. He smiled and said, Yuan Weiqing, I think you should stay in front. LV Hushan really can't block Tianhua's attack by himself. After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, it's not that I don't want to, but my arm really can't. Even if I block in front, it won't be of much use. It's better for me to stay in the back. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, there's no problem. As long as you block in front, Tianhua will definitely launch the first attack on you. At that time, Tianhua will be afraid of causing a fight between the 2 gangs, so he will definitely not dare to be heavy-handed. Therefore, even if your arm is injured, there will definitely be no accident. Hearing LV Hushan say that Tianhua would attack him first, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but tremble. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, LV Hushan, how can I do that? My arm is injured. Even if Tianhua doesn't attack me, he can easily break through my defense line. At that time, Vice-Hall Master Zhang and Hall Master Shui standing behind me will be in danger. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused before continuing. LV Hushan, if you stay in front alone, then Tianhua has no choice. His first target will definitely be you, and you're not seriously injured. I believe that you can block Tianhua if he doesn't go all out. LV Hushan, as long as you block one attack, I believe that with the 3 of us working together, we will definitely be able to injure Yi Tianhua in the first attack. Don't worry, there won't be any problems. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, that won't do. I definitely can't block Yi Tianhua's attack alone. It's not like you don't know how high Yi Tianhua's martial arts are. Compared to his, my martial arts are like heaven and earth. How can I block him? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to reply, he turned to look at Zhang Chunrin and continued. Vice Hall Master Zhang, none of us are Yi Tianhua's match. If we want to stop Yi Tianhua, we can only rely on Yi Tianhua not to use too much force. That's the only way we can stop his attacks. Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. Yi Tianhua has already injured Yuan Weiqing once, so he must be feeling guilty. When he sees Yuan Weiqing in front of him, he definitely won't attack too heavily. This is our chance. Vice Hall Master Zhang, the three of us will hide in the back and wait for this opportunity. As long as Yi Tianhua feels guilty, he definitely won't attack too heavily. Then, we can attack him with all our might. I believe that no matter how high Yi Tianhua's martial arts are, he definitely won't be able to block the attacks of the three of us. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this is our only chance. The people in front of us, no matter who it is, won't be able to block Yi Tianhua's full attack. We can only rely on the guilt in his heart to have a chance. Therefore, I think that Yuan Weiqing is the most suitable person to block in front. Only he can make Yi Tianhua feel guilty and not attack too heavily. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunrin's brows furrowed. He thought about it carefully and suddenly realized that what LV Hushan said seemed to make sense. Everyone had seen Yi Tianhua's martial arts just now. Indeed, no one was his match. If Yi Tianhua attacked with all his might, even if the three of them stood in front of him, they might not be able to block one of Yi Tianhua's attacks. Moreover, just like what LV Hushan said, if Yuan Weiqing was in front, Yi Tianhua would have already crippled Yuan Weiqing's arm. Yi Tianhua would definitely feel guilty and wouldn't be too heavy-handed. As long as Yuan Weiqing blocked Yi Tianhua's attack once, it meant that the people hiding in the back would have two chances to attack. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunrin thought about it in his heart. Would there be a chance to injure Yi Tianhua in these two chances? Zhang Chunrin thought about it carefully and felt slightly relieved. If the three of them worked together, even if they couldn't injure Yi Tianhua in two attacks, they would at least be able to injure him. At that time, as long as Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, they would be able to attack a third time. And Zhang Chunrin believed that even if Yi Tianhua's martial arts are high, he would definitely not be able to dodge the three of them working together for the third time. More importantly, Shui Zhijing had the Heavenly Star technique. At that time, it would definitely be of great use. Perhaps, the three of them would be able to defeat Yi Tianhua in the first attack. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunrin already had some confidence in his heart. What he wanted was for Yi Tianhua to feel guilty. This kind of guilt would also cause Yi Tianhua's attack speed to slow down and the strength of his attacks to weaken. After understanding these problems, Zhang Chunrin raised his head and looked at LV Hushan. He smiled and said, LV Hushan, what you said makes sense. If the three of us stay at the back, there's indeed a great chance of catching Yi Tianhua. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunrin paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, LV Hushan is right. You are indeed very suitable to stay at the front and block Yi Tianhua, because among all of us, Yi Tianhua only feels guilty towards you. During the attack, he will definitely be merciful towards you. So, you don't have to worry about your own safety. As long as you block one of Yi Tianhua's attacks with all your strength, we will have an 80% chance of catching Yi Tianhua this time. Zhang Chunrin stepped forward and patted Yuan Weiqing's shoulder. Yuan Weiqing, as long as we catch Yi Tianhua, he will definitely agree to my conditions. And you can use these conditions to fulfill your wish and become the second one-armed saber king of the South region. Yuan Weiqing, what do you think? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing immediately waved his hand. No, Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can this be? The three of you hide at the back and let me, a cripple, block the front. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't seem appropriate. Vice Hall Master Zhang, please think about it carefully. I'm really not suitable to block the front. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren shook his head and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, you are wrong. Only you are suitable to block the front, because Yi Tianhua injured you the most and has already crippled you. He must feel guilty in his heart, so he will not attack you with all his strength. Naturally, you're not in danger. At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, for our goal, you should work hard too. Think about it. Everyone is fighting with Yi Tianhua here to realize your dream and make you the second one-armed saber king in South County, right? Yuan Weiqing, you have to cheer up and don't let us down. Do you understand? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. Then he waved his hand and said with a wry smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I know everyone is doing this for my own good, but I am now crippled. If I use too much strength, my injury will relapse. In this situation, I'm really not suitable to fight in the front. Vice Hall Master Zhang, it is not that I don't want to work hard, but I can't. You also saw that my injury can't be faked. With my injury, even without Yi Tianhua's help, I will faint from the pain. How can I block the front? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, before Zhang Chunren could say anything, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, this is for the best. The more serious your injury is, the more guilty Yi Tianhua will feel, and the weaker his attacks will be. As for you, you'll be safer. Yuan Weiqing, if you're not crippled and your martial arts are still very high, maybe if you block the front, Yi Tianhua will attack you with all his strength. I believe that you also know how high Yi Tianhua's martial arts are. Once he attacks you with all his strength, even if you're not crippled now, you are definitely not his opponent. As long as Yi Tianhua is willing, he will definitely be able to finish you in one move. That's why I think it's safer for you to die with such heavy injuries, because Yi Tianhua won't be too harsh on you no matter what. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but then he did not wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words. He sighed and continued. Yuan Weiqing, except for you, if any one of us goes forward to block the front, I am afraid that they will be injured by Yi Tianhua or even killed by him. Only you, Yi Tianhua, will not bear to attack you heavily, so you are the safest. Yuan Weiqing, listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang this time. He will not lie to you. You will definitely be very safe. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren smiled and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, LV Hushan is right. Among all of us, you are the safest. Although you only have 20 to 30% of your martial arts left, in front of Yi Tianhua, you only have 20 to 30% of your martial arts left. It is no different from when you were at your peak. If Yi Tianhua is willing, even if your martial arts are higher than now, I am afraid that you will definitely not be able to take one move from him. So you can rest assured that Yi Tianhua will definitely not hurt you in the first move. Even if he can hurt you, it will definitely be a light injury. Maybe he will just push you to the side and will not kill you, so you can rest assured. LV Hushan also said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. As long as you block one of Yi Tianhua's attacks, the three of us will definitely injure Yi Tianhua and then capture him. At that time, Yuan Weiqing, your dream will soon be realized. Although you are crippled now, if you become the second one-armed saber king of South County City, no one will look down on you. Chapter 738. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Xue Zhijing also smiled and said, Yuan Weiqing, LV Hushan is right. If you are in front, Yi Tianhua will definitely not be willing to use his full strength. When the time comes, we can use this point to attack him. I believe that under the attacks of the three of us, Yi Tianhua will definitely not be able to hold on for long and will be caught by us. Xue Zhijing turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with some emotion, Yuan Weiqing, when we catch Yi Tianhua and make him agree to our conditions, I hope that you will work hard in your cultivation and not let us down. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and asked with a trembling voice, "Home Master Shui, do you also think that I am the most suitable person to be in front?" Shui Zhijing nodded. Yuan Weiqing, didn't you hear what LV Hushan said? You are indeed the most suitable person. As long as you are in front, even if Yi Tianhua has great abilities, he will definitely not be able to use them. Yuan Weiqing smiled bitterly and shook his head. Home Master Shui, I don't think so. Just now, when I sneak attacked Yi Tianhua, he was already a little angry. If I am in front, I am afraid that he will not let me go. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry about this problem. I am certain that Yi Tianhua will definitely not be too harsh on you. Although you sneak attacked him just now, he still crippled you. The next time he makes a move, he will definitely feel guilty and will not be too harsh on you. Therefore, Yuan Weiqing, you just have to be in front and there will definitely be no problem. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing frowned. But I did sneak attack Yi Tianhua just now. What if he is unhappy with me and sees me blocking in front of him? What if he takes the opportunity to take revenge? Wouldn't I be in trouble? LV Hushan waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry. We have already negotiated with Yi Tianhua for so long. Don't you know what kind of person he is? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but immediately after, he did not wait for Yuan Weiqing to reply, and continued. Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua is the kind of person who cares about the big picture. In order to not cause a fight between our two gangs, even if his two brothers were injured by us, he still did not go all out against us. Yuan Weiqing, although Yi Tianhua severely injured you, if you carefully think about it, he did not use his full strength. I think that with Yi Tianhua's martial arts, if he wanted to kill you, it would be a simple matter, of course, if he wanted to kill you, but he did not do so. But he did not do so and only heavily injured you. This is enough to say, he did not want to kill you. Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua is afraid of causing a fight between the two gangs, so he doesn't want to go too far. We can also use this to our advantage and let you stand in front of us. I believe that when Yi Tianhua saw your broken arm, he definitely wouldn't dare to use too much force, because if he did, it might cause a fight between the two gangs. So, don't worry, I can guarantee you that Yi Tianhua will definitely not hurt you. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing smiled bitterly and shook his head. LV Hushan, I know you are right, but what if Yi Tianhua does not think so? What should we do? At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but immediately after, he did not wait for LV Hushan to reply, and continued. LV Hushan, why don't the two of us stay in front and block Yi Tianhua's attack? What do you think? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was shocked and quickly waved his hand. No, how can we do that? Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua feels guilty towards you because he hurt you before, but he does not feel guilty towards me. Once I meet him, he might go all out against me. When that happens, won't I be in trouble? So, I'm really not suitable to be in front. Yuan Weiqing, I think you should stay in front. This is the safest way. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. No, if you want me to stay in front alone, I will definitely not agree. This is too dangerous. If Yi Tianhua is angered, then I will be in trouble. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Shui Zhijing frowned and slowly said, Yuan Weiqing, how can you say that? Don't forget who we are doing this for. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, whole leader Shui is right. Think about it. Isn't the reason why we want to capture Yi Tianhua to help you stand up again? Yuan Weiqing, it will cost too much to help you stand up again. If we don't capture Yi Tianhua, then we really can't help you stand up again. Although we want to help you, you have to do your part too, right? Yuan Weiqing, although Yi Tianhua's martial arts are strong, he doesn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs. This is his weakness, so I'm sure that even if you stay in the front, you won't be in any danger. You might even be safer than the people behind us. Yuan Weiqing, you also know that when the battle starts, the ones attacking Yi Tianhua will mainly be the three of us. Once the battle starts, Yi Tianhua might abandon you and charge directly at us. At that time, you Who is in the front will be safer than us. Don't you think so? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, if the front is so safe, then why are you at the back? Aren't you afraid that Tianhua will attack you? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan's face turned red, but he quickly recovered and smiled. Yuan Weiqing, this is different. The reason why I am at the back is because it is easier to attack from the back. That's why I am at the back, not because I'm afraid of Tianhua. At this point, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Yuan Weiqing to reply and continued. Yuan Weiqing, you really don't have to worry. The three of us will attack Tianhua from behind. Who knows? We might even injure Tianhua before he reaches you. At that time, won't you be safer? After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, don't lie to me. If we're in front, we'll have to face Tianhua directly. It's definitely more dangerous. No matter what you say, I won't believe you. Blocking the front is the safest place. Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a wry smile, LV Hushan, take a good look at my broken arm. You three have good arms. How can you bear to let me, a man with a broken arm, stand in front of you? LV Hushan, listen to me. The two of us will stand at the front. At the very least, you can help me at a critical moment. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan's face turned red again. He hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, what I said just now is true. I am not lying to you. If you stand at the front, you will definitely be safe. You will definitely be safer than the people behind us. Don't worry. Yuan Weiqing shook his head and said with a bitter smile, LV Hushan, it is really inappropriate for me to stand at the front alone. I think it is better for the two of us. At that time, you will wait in front of me. When Tianhua attacks, you will first block him once. Then, I will block him a second time. Won't that be better? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan frowned and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if I stand at the front, I am afraid that Tianhua will not let me go. I'm different from you. Tianhua hurt you once, so he feels guilty and won't hurt you a second time. But I'm different. If I stand in front of him, Tianhua might attack me regardless of the consequences. If that happens, wouldn't it be terrible? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing frowned. But LV Hushan, aren't you worried about me? Don't forget that I have been crippled by Tianhua and have no fighting power. As long as Tianhua attacks me, I won't even have a chance to resist. Wouldn't that be more dangerous? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, have you forgotten what Hallmaster Shui said? We're doing this for you. If you want to become the second one-armed saber king of the South County, you must take part of the responsibility. Think about it. What kind of people can help you like we can? Yuan Weiqing, 10 million gold coins, brilliant saber skills, and elixirs that can change talent. With so many conditions, no matter where you go, I am afraid that no one will help you. Yuan Weiqing, think about it carefully. With so many good things, don't we know how to use them ourselves? Why should we help you? Isn't it because we are from the same sect? That's why I believe that you should be the one to take the lead at the critical moment. You can't let your guard down. Although it might be dangerous for you to take the lead, once you succeed, you'll gain a lot of benefits. Yuan Weiqing, if you can really become the second one-armed saber king of the South County, then no matter where you go, you will be respected and worshipped by others. Don't you want that? In order to let you stand up on your own, Yuan Weiqing, don't be afraid. If you succeed, you will become the second one-armed saber king of the South County. This is the dream of many people. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Shui Zhijing smiled and nodded. That's right, Yuan Weiqing. LV Hushan is right. For you, we have to fight Tianhua. You have to work hard too. Speaking of this, Shui Zhijing paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, when we capture Tianhua, I will immediately go back and build a secret room for you. You can discuss the conditions with Tianhua here. When you solve the problem here, my secret room will have been built. At that time, Yuan Weiqing, you only need to enter the secret room to cultivate. When you come out, You will be the second one-armed saber king of the South County. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, LV Hushan also smiled and said, Yuan Weiqing, Home Master Shui is right. When you come out of the secret room, you will be the second one-armed saber king of the South County. Now that I think about it, even I'm a little excited. After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing's heart suddenly trembled. He raised his head to look at Shui Zhijing and said with a wry smile, Home Master Shui, do you have to build a secret room? Shui Zhijing nodded. If you want to succeed, the best way is to build a secret room, because only a solid secret room can let you forget all distracting thoughts and concentrate on cultivating martial arts. Only in this way can you cultivate martial arts to the peak as soon as possible and become the second one-armed saber king of the South County. Yuan Weiqing, when the time comes, you don't have to worry about anything else. You just need to cultivate martial arts in the secret room. That is enough. Do you understand? After hearing about the secret room, Yuan Weiqing's mood suddenly became a little uncomfortable. He sighed, Home Master Shui, why must we build a secret room? Our house is not small. If I cultivate a home, I can save the money to build a secret room. What's wrong with that? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Shui Zhijing shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you also know how much we have paid to help you stand up again. If you don't enter the secret room to cultivate, how can you be worthy of us? Yuan Weiqing shook his head with a wry smile. Home Master Shui, even if I don't go to the secret room to cultivate, I can still cultivate hard. Don't worry, I will never forget the price you have paid for me. When I cultivate martial arts, I will definitely repay you. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Shui Zhijing sighed and said with a wry smile, Yuan Weiqing, to be honest, we really don't want you to repay us for helping you this time. At this point, Shui Zhijing's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. I am now more than 40 years old. If you cultivate in the secret room for 80 years, then I will be more than 120 years old. Even if you want to repay me, I can't say for sure if I will still be here at that time. How can you repay me? Shui Zhijing turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, we really don't want you to repay us for helping you this time. We just want to help you this time. There is no other meaning. I hope you can understand. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, Home Master Shui is right. After you enter the secret room, you will have to cultivate for 80 to 90 years. After 80 to 90 years, it is hard to say if we will still be here. You will also have no way to repay us. So, you have to work hard yourself. This time, when you fight with Etianhua, you will be in front of him. You have worked hard for yourself. What do you think? After hearing the two's words, Yuan Weiqing only felt extremely depressed. If he didn't think about this question carefully, his heart would feel better. But after thinking about it carefully, he felt a little uncomfortable. Cultivating in the secret room for 80 to 90 years until his martial arts improved greatly. Then he could open the secret room and walk out of it. At that time, he would be more than 100 years old. Chapter 739. Seeing the disappointment on Yuan Weiqing's face, Zhang Chunren hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry about it taking too long. As long as we find the elixirs that can increase your martial talent, your cultivation time will be reduced. Naturally, it won't take that long. Speaking up to this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to reply and continued. Yuan Weiqing, I think you don't want to become a cripple. Think about it. If word gets out that you're a cripple, your reputation won't be good, especially your son. I'm afraid you won't be able to raise your head. So I think that although this matter is difficult, you must overcome it to stand up again. Let your son see that you're not a cripple, but the second one-armed saber king in the South region. Yuan Weiqing, listen to me. As long as you're willing to work hard, we'll definitely help you. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing felt much better in his heart. He nodded and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't worry. I will definitely work hard. I won't let everyone down. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded with satisfaction. Yuan Weiqing, if you want to succeed, you must stand in front. Because only with you standing in front can the three of us exert our full strength. Only then can we catch Yi Tianhua and make him agree to our conditions. Do you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but frown. When he thought of Yi Tianhua's terrifying martial arts, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I'm not afraid, but if I stand in front alone, I'm really afraid that I won't be able to stop Yi Tianhua. At that time, I'll delay everyone. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. He turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, you heard Yuan Weiqing's words. He wants you to stand in front with him. What do you think? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you heard wrong. Yuan Weiqing didn't mean that. He only said that he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to block Yi Tianhua's attack alone, so he hoped that someone would help him. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I was thinking that it would be better for you to go up and block him. Think about it. Yi Tianhua harmed your son, so he must feel guilty towards you, just like how Yi Tianhua feels towards Yuan Weiqing. When he attacks you, it will definitely not be heavy-handed. At that time, if you and Yuan Weiqing work together, Yi Tianhua will definitely not be able to break through your defense line. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a while before continuing. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I think the best way is for you and Yuan Weiqing to stand in the front. After hearing LV Hushan's words, a trace of anger flashed in Zhang Chunren's eyes. He said coldly, LV Hushan, are you afraid? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Vice Hall Master Zhang, how is that possible? What I just said is only the most suitable way for us. Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. If I stand in the front, Yi Tianhua won't feel guilty towards me, so he naturally won't hold back. We all know Yi Tianhua's martial arts. If he goes all out, I definitely won't be able to block it. Most importantly, when Yi Tianhua goes all out against me, Yuan Weiqing will also step forward to help. But at this time, Yi Tianhua was going all out. With his martial arts, if he wanted to kill the two of us, it would be a simple matter. At that time, not only would I die with Yi Tianhua on my back, even Yuan Weiqing would be threatened by the aftermath of Yi Tianhua's attack. Perhaps he would also die from this powerful attack. After all, Yuan Weiqing's arm is injured, and his martial arts have been reduced by more than half. In the face of Yi Tianhua's full attack, he definitely won't be able to block it. There's a great possibility that he will be killed by Yi Tianhua. It is precisely because of these reasons that I think that Vice Hall Master Zhang, you and Yuan Weiqing will be in the front. Yi Tianhua won't be able to go all out, and we can also use this opportunity to seriously injure Yi Tianhua. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this is the best choice for us. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren couldn't help but frown. He whispered, LV Hushan, your martial arts are not as good as mine, and your throwing skills are not as good as mine. If you stay in the back, you won't be able to play a big role. But if I stay in the back, the effect will be completely different. I believe that if Hall Master Shui and I join forces, we will definitely be able to take down Yi Tianhua as soon as possible. But if we rely on you, perhaps all our previous efforts will be wasted. Don't you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan shook his head. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you don't have to worry about this. Don't forget that our main force attacking from the back is Hall Master Shui. Hall Master Shui has the Heavenly Star technique. I believe that even if he only relies on himself, he will be able to capture Yi Tianhua in a very short time. So I think that it doesn't matter whether the person staying in the back is you or me. What matters is that Hall Master Shui is in the back, and that is enough. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren's frown deepened. He said coldly, LV Hushan, do you think that my martial arts are not good enough? If I stay in the back, I won't be able to play a big role? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hesitated for a moment, but he still nodded because he knew that if he was still cowardly at this moment, he would probably be in the front. At this moment, LV Hushan was already very clear that if he went to the front to block Etienne would definitely not hold back. Most importantly, Etienne's first target would definitely be him. Etienne did not want to go all out against Yuan Weiqing, so he was naturally the best target. LV Hushan was very clear that if Etienne really attacked him, LV Hushan was certain that he would not have the slightest chance to resist. So, the best way was, of course, to stay in the back. Only this way was the safest way. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I don't mean that. Although your martial arts are very good, compared to Hall Master Shui, you're still far behind. Especially since Hall Master Shui has the Heavenly Star technique. You can't compare with him in this aspect. So I think that Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you blocking in front, is the best choice. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren clenched his teeth and said in a low voice, LV Hushan, I can tell you the truth. My martial arts are not what you think. If I really want to fight, I will definitely surprise you. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment and then shook his head. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I know that your martial arts are better than mine, but compared to Hall Master Shui, I'm afraid that you are still somewhat lacking. Zhang Chunren frowned and said slowly, LV Hushan, you don't have to care about my martial arts. I just want to tell you that you will block in front, and I will stay behind to attack. Do you understand? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, if I block in front, Etienne will definitely attack me first. What should I do then? Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. What should you do, LV Hushan? When the enemy attacks you, don't you even know what to do? At this point, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he snorted and continued. LV Hushan, let me tell you, when Etienne attacks you, you must block for me. Don't let him break through your defense. Do you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, how is that possible? I am not Etienne's opponent. How can I block his attacks when he attacks me? Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and said word by word, LV Hushan, you and Yuan Weiqing will block in front. I believe that with your martial arts, you should be able to block 2 of Etienne's attacks. When these 2 attacks are over, I believe that Etienne will have been captured by us. So, you only need to think carefully about how to block these 2 attacks. After hearing this, LV Hushan smiled bitterly and shook his head. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. Yuan Weiqing, you tell me, do you have the confidence to block 2 of Etienne's attacks? After hearing this question, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. The person who asked the question was LV Hushan, but Yuan Weiqing was very clear about what Zhang Chunren was trying to say. It was because of this reason that Yuan Weiqing couldn't answer. If it was someone else who asked this question, Yuan Weiqing would have told him that it was impossible. LV Hushan's martial arts were not as good as his, and his arm was injured, so his martial arts were greatly reduced. On the other hand, Etienne's martial arts were quite strong. With their condition, it was impossible to block 2 of Etienne's attacks. If it was 1 attack, Yuan Weiqing was more or less confident. But if it was 2 attacks, Yuan Weiqing had no confidence at all. Of course, even if they blocked 1 attack, it was because Etienne didn't want to be heavy-handed. Otherwise, the 2 of them wouldn't even be able to block 1 attack. However, although Yuan Weiqing thought this, he couldn't say it because Zhang Chunren was the one who asked. Zhang Chunren was helping him. If he didn't cooperate with him, wouldn't he be letting Zhang Chunren down? So, Yuan Weiqing couldn't answer this question. The most important thing was that even he didn't want to be at the front. LV Hushan saw that Yuan Weiqing didn't answer his question, but he didn't care too much. He knew why Yuan Weiqing didn't answer his question. LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, your martial arts are higher than mine, but you're seriously injured. You can only use 20 to 30% of your martial arts. In this state, once Etienne attacks the 2 of us with all his strength, I can guarantee that we won't be able to block 1 attack. At this point, LV Hushan turned to look at Shui Zhijing and said with a bitter smile, Home Master Shui. If Yuan Weiqing and I are the front, it will be too disadvantageous for our plan. If we can't block Yi Tianhua's attack and ruin the plan, it will be terrible. After hearing LV Hushan's question, Shui Zhijing frowned and then nodded with a smile. LV Hushan, you're right. Once Yi Tianhua breaks through your defense line, the consequences will be unimaginable. At this point, Shui Zhijing paused and turned to look at Zhang Chunren before continuing. Vice Master Zhang, I think what LV Hushan said makes sense. If the two of them are at the front, I'm afraid that they won't be able to block Yi Tianhua's attack. Vice Master Zhang, think about it carefully. Is there any way to solve this problem? Hearing Shui Zhijing's question, Zhang Chunren sneered. Home Master Shui, if LV Hushan and Yuan Weiqing are at the front, as long as they do their best, I think they can block Yi Tianhua, unless they deliberately don't want to. Hearing this, LV Hushan was a little annoyed and said anxiously, Vice Home Master Zhang, how is that possible? We're from the Secret Thunder sect in the South County. How can we not want to block Yi Tianhua? At this point, LV Hushan paused and turned to look at Shui Zhijing before continuing. Home Master Shui, please don't worry. If the two of us are at the front, we'll definitely resist with all our strength and won't let Yi Tianhua come over. However, Home Master Shui, you know that Yi Tianhua's martial arts are very strong. If the two of us really can't block him, then there's really no other way. It's precisely because of this reason that I hope that Vice Hall Master Zhang will stay at the front, because his martial arts are very strong and he has a high chance of blocking Yi Tianhua. Hall Master Shui, in order for our plan to succeed, I think it's better to let Vice Hall Master Zhang stay at the front. Only then will we have a higher chance of success. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Shui Zhijing smiled and nodded. LV Hushan, you're right. I know you're not afraid. What you're saying is to not affect our plan. Shui Zhijing turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what LV Hushan said makes sense. He's mainly afraid that he can't block Yi Tianhua's attack and affect our plan. So he wants you to go forward and help. I hope you can understand. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and said in a deep voice, Home Master Shui, if the three of us stay at the front and you attack Yi Tianhua alone from the back, even if you launch 3 attacks, I'm afraid you might not succeed. However, with my help, it's different. If the two of us work together to deal with Yi Tianhua, the power of this attack will definitely increase by several times. At that time, if there are no accidents, the two of us should have a very high chance of capturing Yi Tianhua in 2 attacks. At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Shui Zhijing to reply and continued speaking. Hall Master Shui, although there's only a difference of 1 attack between 2 and 3 attacks in a battle, this difference might cause a huge change and turn the entire situation around. Chapter 740. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Shui Zhijing nodded as he said with a smile, Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, you're right. 2 attacks and 3 attacks are indeed different. It's really possible that the outcome of the battle will be determined by this attack. After saying this, Shui Zhijing turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, you heard what Vice Hall Master Zhang said just now. Does what he said make sense? Hearing Shui Zhijing's question, LV Hushan shook his head. Hall Master Shui, I admit that what you said just now is right, but you forgot one thing. That is, once the front line of defense is broken, it doesn't matter how many attacks you said. Hall Master Shui, am I right? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Shui Zhijing was stunned for a moment. Then he turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, do you think LV Hushan is right? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Hall Master Shui, although LV Hushan's words make sense, I can tell you that even if the two of them block the front line, there will definitely be no problem. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Shui Zhijing to answer his question, he continued to speak. Hall Master Shui, think about it. The reason why Yi Tianhua talked to us for so long is that he doesn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs. Since he doesn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs, he definitely won't go all out. Just like just now, although he also used the Thunderbolt pill, what was the result? Tianhua still didn't dare to make a move. He was still worried that it would cause a fight between the two gangs. Hall Master Shui, since this is the case, let's make a move later. Tianhua definitely won't go all out. Maybe he just wants to push LV Hushan and Yuan Weiqing away to reason with us. It can be said that with Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan blocking the front line, there is absolutely no danger. As for saying that Tianhua can break through their defensive line, that's even more nonsense. Tianhua doesn't even dare to use his full strength. So how can he break through their defensive line? Unless Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan run away before the fight starts. In that case, the defensive line formed by the two of them will definitely be easily broken through by Tianhua. At this point, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, when you fight with Tianhua later, will you run away in fear? Hearing this question, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head. Regardless of whether he would run away or not, he absolutely could not say it out loud. Vice Master Zhang, how is that possible? No matter how powerful Tianhua is, I can't possibly run away. Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren's reply and continued to speak. Vice Master Zhang, don't worry. As long as I'm here, I'll stand in front of you. I won't let Tianhua break through our defense line. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded in satisfaction. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked with a smile. LV Hushan, let me ask you, when you fight with Tianhua later, will you run away? After hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment. He wanted to shake his head, but he knew that he couldn't. Once he shook his head, it meant that he was a coward. He didn't even have the courage to fight with the enemy. Under such circumstances, even if he wanted to shake his head, he couldn't. Thinking of this, LV Hushan forced a smile and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can that be? This is a battle. How can I run away without fighting? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing. However, Vice Hall Master Zhang, let the two of us. Before LV Hushan finished speaking, Zhang Chunren waved his hand and interrupted him. Hall Master Shui, look. The two of them said that they won't run away. Then I can say with certainty that as long as the two of them fight with Tianhua will definitely not break through their defense line. In this way, we will maintain the original formation until we catch Tianhua. Therefore, I believe that the formation I just mentioned is the most advantageous for us in battle. Only with this kind of formation will we be able to capture Tianhua. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Shui Zhijing nodded with a smile. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you are right. It seems that maintaining this formation is our best choice. Speaking of this, Shui Zhijing turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, when we fight later, you have to remember what you said now. You must not retreat, because if you retreat, we will lose this battle. Shui Zhijing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer him. He let out a sigh and continued on his own. LV Hushan, our battle this time is related to Yuan Weiqing's future. Whether he can become the second one-armed Saber King in Nan County depends on whether you can retreat or not. LV Hushan, as long as you hold the front and don't let Tianhua take half a step forward, I can promise you that I will definitely injure Tianhua and then catch him to fulfill Yuan Weiqing's wish and make him the second one-armed Saber King in Nanmei. Although Tianhua's martial arts are strong, LV Hushan, as long as you are determined, you will definitely be able to block his attack and never retreat. LV Hushan, I am here to express my gratitude to you on behalf of Yuan Weiqing. Thank you for your support. Hearing Shui Zhijing's words of gratitude, LV Hushan felt uncomfortable. All of this was for Yuan Weiqing. No matter what he did, he couldn't get any benefits, and there were many disadvantages. If he was unlucky and was killed by Tianhua, wouldn't that be terrible? Thinking of this, LV Hushan said with a wry smile, Hall Leader Shui, I still think that it's best to let Yuan Weiqing stand in the front alone, because Yi Tianhua won't hit him too hard. Therefore, Yuan Weiqing alone can block Yi Tianhua's attack. If I stay behind, I can increase our attack power. Isn't this killing two birds with one stone? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren didn't wait for Xue Zhijing to speak and said with some annoyance, LV Hushan, what do you mean? Everyone has already made a plan. Why do you always want to change it? LV Hushan, let me ask you, are you afraid? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment. After he reacted, he gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, you also know that Yi Tianhua won't hit Yuan Weiqing hard because Yuan Weiqing injured him before. But as for me, as long as I block him, Yi Tianhua will definitely hit me hard. At that time, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what should I do? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question and continued to speak. Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. What if Yi Tianhua doesn't kill me, but just cripples me like Yuan Weiqing? What should I do then? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. Just as he was about to speak, Xue Zhijing suddenly said, LV Hushan, if you're only worried about this problem, then it's easy. Speaking of this, Xue Zhijing's tone paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. LV Hushan, I promise you here that if you're crippled by Yi Tianhua, then do as Yuan Weiqing said. LV Hushan, I want to build a secret room anyway. This secret room is not small. You and Yuan Weiqing go to the secret room together and practice the brilliant martial arts we found. At that time, the two of you will become the second one-armed saber king of the South County. Wouldn't that be a beautiful story? Xue Zhijing stepped forward and patted LV Hushan, who was in a daze, and continued with a smile. LV Hushan, so you don't have to worry at all. If you're crippled by Yi Tianhua, it might be your opportunity, don't you think so? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, LV Hushan finally reacted. He suddenly turned his head to look at Xue Zhijing and asked in a trembling voice, Home Master Xue, are you saying that you want me to go to the secret room with Yuan Weiqing to practice some kind of martial arts? Xue Zhijing nodded. That's right. You have already contributed to the secret thunder sect in the South County. How can we forget you? So I have decided that once you are crippled, I will lock you in the secret room and let you and Yuan Weiqing practice the brilliant martial arts together. What do you think? Hearing Xue Zhijing's affirmative answer, LV Hushan subconsciously took a step back. He was afraid that he would be locked in the secret room now. Hall Master Xue, I think we should discuss this matter properly. What do you think? Xue Zhijing shook his head. LV Hushan, there's no need to discuss. I have decided on this matter. Anyway, I want to build a secret room. At this point, Xue Zhijing paused. He pondered for a moment before continuing. LV Hushan, my original plan was to build a smaller secret room. This secret room is about 1.5 meters wide and 2 meters tall. Because I only considered Yuan Weiqing alone, I built it smaller. However, since you won't participate, I will build it bigger. It is about 3 meters wide. What do you think? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, LV Hushan was shocked. He never expected that the secret room built by Xue Zhijing was only 1.5 meters wide. How big was a 1.5 meter wide square? If someone wanted to lie in it, they would not be able to straighten their legs. How is this cultivating martial arts? This was clearly suffering. At the thought of living in such an environment, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said in a trembling voice, Hall Master Xue, I think it's better to forget it. Let Yuan Weiqing cultivate alone. I won't disturb her. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Xue Zhijing smiled and suddenly said, LV Hushan, I understand. You don't want to cultivate in the same room with Yuan Weiqing, right? At this point, Xue Zhijing paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he continued, LV Hushan, it doesn't matter. If the two of you are in the same secret room, I am afraid that you will really disturb each other. Because there will be someone to talk to, it will reduce the time for cultivation. So, I have decided to build 2 secret rooms for the 2 of you. 1 room for each of you. There will be a wall in the middle. If you want to talk, you can only knock on the wall. I think if this is the case, it will not affect the cultivation of martial arts because of the 2 of you talking. LV Hushan, do you think this is to your liking? After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, LV Hushan was so shocked that his hair stood on end. He only felt a chill rise from the bottom of his heart and quickly spread to his entire body. It made him feel as if his entire body was stiff. LV Hushan composed himself and said with a forced smile, Master Shui, please don't say that. Cultivating martial arts is a good thing, but I don't have any big dreams. If I am really crippled by Tianhua, then I will accept it. Let him compensate me with some gold coins, and I will go back to the countryside to enjoy my life. I won't trouble you. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Shui Zhijing waved his hand and said slowly, LV Hushan, I know you are afraid of troubling us. But let me tell you, you don't have to be afraid. Everything we do is sincerely to help you and let you stand on your feet again. So, you don't have to be polite. Shui Zhijing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to reply, he continued. LV Hushan, since we were talking about this matter, then help me think about it. When building the secret room, do you want to build a secret room that is 1 meter wide or a secret room that is 1.5 meters wide? Although a 1 meter wide secret chamber saves materials, if that's the case, if you want to sleep inside, I'm afraid you'll have to stand up to sleep. But this is also good. You will have less time to sleep and more time to cultivate. As long as you speed up your cultivation, maybe in 60 to 70 years, or even 70 to 80 years, you'll be able to complete your cultivation and break the secret room I built. Then, you will be able to reappear in the martial arts world and become the second one-armed saber king in the South region. Shui Zhijing paused for a moment before continuing, My second plan is to build a secret room that is 1.5 meters wide. Although it is slightly more spacious, the only drawback is that you can lie down and sleep. Although you can't stretch your legs, you can still lie down. Shui Zhijing turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a wry smile, LV Hushan, you are also a person who cultivates martial arts. You should be very clear that as long as a person is idle, he will immediately stop cultivating. If the secret room is too big and allows people to lie down and rest, I am afraid that you will keep resting in it and forget to cultivate martial arts. This is very bad. LV Hushan, you will live in it in the future. In your opinion, should you cultivate a 1 meter wide secret room or a 1 meter wide secret room? After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, LV Hushan was so scared that his forehead was full of cold sweat. Even his body was trembling slightly. If a person were to live in a 1 meter wide secret room, they would only be able to stand every day. Even sitting down would be a luxury. Cultivating martial arts was a long-term thing. This meant that they might have to stand for 70 to 80 years. Chapter 741. Shui Zhijing saw that LV Hushan did not answer and said with a smile, LV Hushan, why don't you say something? Tell me, is it better to have a 1 meter wide secret room or a 1.5 meter wide secret room? Hearing Shui Zhijing's question again, LV Hushan gritted his teeth and said with a forced smile, Master Shui, I don't think it's necessary. I think you should ask Yuan Weiqing about this. After all, he's the only one living here, isn't he? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Shui Zhijing did not take it seriously. He turned his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing, who was in a daze, and asked with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, what do you think? Do you want to build a 1 meter wide secret room or a 1.5 meter wide secret room? Which one is better for cultivation? After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing's body suddenly trembled and sweat suddenly flowed from his forehead. He never thought that the secret room that Shui Zhijing wanted to build would be so small. He originally thought that the secret chamber built by Shui Zhijing would be at least a few dozen steps wide. It would be best to divide the interior into a cultivation room and a bedroom. Of course, the place that was convenient must not be used. It must be specially separated. Otherwise, as long as he smelled that smell, he was afraid that he would not be able to concentrate on cultivation. In addition, the ventilation in that place must be good. Otherwise, if the smell could not be dispersed, then there would be no way to stay in the secret room. However, before he could say these suggestions, he heard Xue Zhijing's question. Xue Zhijing really scared him. He never thought that Xue Zhijing would want to build that kind of secret room. What was the difference between a 1.5-meter wide secret room and a 1-meter wide secret room? Staying in such a small space for 70 to 80 years, not to mention cultivating martial arts, he would be bored to death. Especially those 1-meter wide secret rooms, there was no way for people to stay in. Because, as Xue Zhijing said, it was impossible for people to lie down and sleep in a 1-meter wide secret room. Could it be that he really had to stand in the secret room for 70 to 80 years? If that was really the case, his legs would probably be crippled before he could cultivate any martial arts. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing only felt a chill rise from the bottom of his heart and spread to his whole body in an instant. He couldn't help but shiver, which slightly eased the chill in his heart. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing didn't answer him, Xue Zhijing's smile remained unchanged as he asked again, Yuan Weiqing, it seems that you can't make up your mind. Let me make the decision for you. Xue Zhijing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing's reply and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, in my opinion, a 1-meter wide secret room is very good. Think about it. How much time do we take to sleep every day? If we have such a secret room to limit your sleep time, I believe that your cultivation speed will definitely increase by several times. Yuan Weiqing, if there are no accidents, you might be able to succeed in just 50 to 60 years of cultivation to build a 1-meter wide secret chamber like this, which would take you 70 to 80 years of cultivation. How about it? This plan isn't bad, right? As long as you agree, I will build a secret chamber for you and LV Hushan. Xue Zhijing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer him. He pondered for a moment and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, my plan is that the thickness of the wall between you and LV Hushan is about 5 meters. If the two of you are willing, you can leave a thumb-size hole between the two of you. This way, the two of you can talk and discuss the progress of your cultivation. If there is something that you don't understand, you can also learn from each other. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. Yuan Weiqing, what do you think of my plan? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing flew into a rage. He wanted to scold Xue Zhijing, but he couldn't because he knew that Xue Zhijing was really doing this for his own good. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing raised his head and looked at Xue Zhijing. He forced a smile and said, Hall Leader Xue, there is really no need to go through so much trouble. I can cultivate at home. I believe that if you give me 80 to 90 years, I will definitely be able to cultivate successfully. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I know that the conditions in the secret chamber are indeed very difficult, so I can understand that you don't want to cultivate in the secret chamber. Speaking of this, Xue Zhijing paused for a moment before continuing. But Yuan Weiqing, do you know how the one-armed saber king cultivated? Let me tell you, the cave he went to that year was indeed very big at the beginning, but it only took a year or two for the rocks to fall from the mountain and seal him in a rock wall. It took him a long time to come out of that rock wall. Xue Zhijing turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a wry smile, Yuan Weiqing, the one-armed saber king once said that if you want to cultivate high-level martial arts as quickly as possible, you must have no distracting thoughts. Whether it is day or night, even when you're sleeping, you must think about cultivating martial arts. Of course, he also once said that if you want to cultivate martial arts as quickly as possible, the best way is, of course, to cultivate in a narrow space. Only in this way can you cultivate high-level martial arts as quickly as possible. Yuan Weiqing, this is what the one-armed saber king told me. This is his experience. You absolutely have to believe it. I believe that if you follow his experience, you will definitely be able to practice martial arts much faster. Maybe when you cultivate, we will still be in this world. At that time, we'll be able to see your martial arts, and our hearts will be relieved. Xue Zhijing stepped forward and patted Yuan Weiqing's shoulder. He said seriously, Yuan Weiqing, listen to me, there is absolutely nothing wrong. As long as you enter such a secret room, it will definitely be of great help to your cultivation. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing frowned and shook his head with a wry smile. Hall leader Xue wanted to cultivate martial arts in a secret room is actually not that easy. Think about it. The one-armed Saber King can still eat the moss on the rocks, but what about me? I can't eat anything in a secret room. Wouldn't I be starving? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing smiled and waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, this is not difficult. I will have people send you food every day. You will definitely not starve. Speaking up to here, Xue Zhijing's tone paused for a moment before he continued. Of course, in order to not affect your cultivation speed, I will only send you 1 meal a day. This way, I can only disturb you once a day. I think this should be fine, right? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly taken aback. He hurriedly waved his hand. Hall leader Xue, how can I only eat 1 meal a day? No one can choke. Xue Zhijing nodded. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry. In fact, you stay in the secret room every day and don't consume much food. Eating 1 meal a day, I think, is enough. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry, I definitely won't lie to you. Think about it. When the one-armed Saber King was in the cave, he ate moss every day. If he consumed too much food, I don't think any amount of moss would be enough for him. Therefore, I think that eating 1 meal a day is enough for you. Who knows? Maybe you will take the initiative to ask to eat 1 meal every 2 days. Eat 1 meal every 2 days? Yuan Weiqing looked at Xue Zhijing in surprise and said in a trembling voice, Hall leader Xue, this really can't do. If I only eat 1 meal a day, I really can't stand it. You also know that I have a big appetite. If I eat 1 less meal a day, I will feel uncomfortable. If I eat 2 less meals a day, I'm afraid that I won't be able to hold on until the day I succeed in martial arts. I will directly starve to death. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing frowned and lowered his head to think for a moment. Then he slowly said, Yuan Weiqing, since you think this way and are afraid of being hungry, then it doesn't matter. We can send down a water pipe from the ventilation hole. You can drink water from the pipe at any time. I think, with this water, you should be able to hold on for a day, don't you think? Drink water? Yuan Weiqing opened his eyes wide and stared blankly at Xue Zhijing. After a while, he asked in a trembling voice, Hall leader Xue, I am hungry in the secret room. Do you only give me water to drink? Xue Zhijing shook his head and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, how is that possible? Don't forget, you can eat 1 meal a day. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly said loudly, Hall leader Xue, no, I have to eat 3 meals a day. If I miss 1 meal, I will be hungry. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing hurriedly nodded and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, since you want to eat 3 meals a day, it doesn't matter. I can send someone to send you 3 meals a day. But don't regret it, because once you enter the secret room, I am afraid that your voice will not be heard from outside. Even if you want to regret, I am afraid it will be too late. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing asked with some doubts, Hall leader Xue, I eat 3 meals a day. Why would I regret it? When I am at home, I also eat 3 meals a day. Sometimes when I am happy, I even eat 4 meals. Is there a problem? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing nodded and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, when you are at home, you can eat as many meals as you want. Because no matter how many meals you eat, there will be no problem. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing was even more puzzled and asked doubtfully, Hall leader Xue, can you explain it clearly? Why is it okay for me to eat a few meals at home? Xue Zhijing shook his head with a wry smile. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. After eating too much, what will you do? After hearing Xue Zhijing's question, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment and asked with some doubts. After eating, of course, I will go to sleep. Is there anything else? Xue Zhijing sighed. Yuan Weiqing, after eating too much, won't you go to the bathroom? After hearing this question, Yuan Weiqing nodded naturally. Of course, who won't go to the bathroom? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly stunned. He turned his head to look at Xue Zhijing and asked tentatively, Hall Leader Xue, do you mean that if I eat too much in the secret room, I will go to the bathroom? Xue Zhijing nodded. Of course, who will not go to the bathroom after eating too much? Speaking of this, Xue Zhijing paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued. Yuan Weiqing, you are different from me outside. There are many places outside. You can go wherever you want to go and be free. But in the secret room, you can't do that. It is only 1 meter wide. If you go to the bathroom 3 times a day. Although Xue Zhijing didn't finish his words, Yuan Weiqing already understood and thought of the horror of this matter. In a 1 meter wide secret room, whether it was eating or doing other things, he had to stay in this 1 meter wide secret room. Thinking of such a small secret room and the consequences of eating too much, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. For a moment, he was speechless. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing didn't speak, Xue Zhijing smiled and said, Yuan Weiqing, now you understand why I only send you 1 meal a day, right? Speaking of this, Xue Zhijing paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued, Yuan Weiqing, I'm mainly worried that after a long time, you won't even have a place to stand. So, he decided to only send you 1 meal a day. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly realized and asked in a trembling voice, Hall Leader Xue, don't tell me that no one cleans these things? Xue Zhijing smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, in the secret room, you can only rely on others to clean it. Speaking of this, Xue Zhijing paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, my plan is that when I send you meals every day, you pack these things and let him take them out. Yuan Weiqing, what do you think? Yuan Weiqing thought for a moment and sighed. Hall Leader Xue, I think it's better if you don't build a secret room. I'll just cultivate in my own home. I won't go anywhere else. Hall Leader Xue, what do you think? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if you want to cultivate a high-level martial arts, how can you be afraid of suffering? I know that the conditions in a secret room are indeed very difficult, but once you learn martial arts, it will be amazing. Yuan Weiqing, the one-armed saber king of South County City, what kind of status do you have? If you become the second one-armed saber king, then you will also enjoy the treatment of the one-armed saber king and become a legendary figure in South County City. Isn't this what you want? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed. Hall Leader Xue, I know that you want me to cultivate martial arts as soon as possible, but I'm really sorry, I can't do it. Hall Leader Xue, if you want me to cultivate in a 1 meter wide secret room every day, I can't do it no matter what. Who knows, I might die in the secret room before I succeed. Let me cultivate in my own home. Although it will take a long time, there will be a time when I succeed. Chapter 742. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhijing frowned. Yuan Weiqing, this won't do. We've paid such a high price, but you don't cultivate seriously. How can this be? Speaking up to here, Xue Zhijing paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, you listen to me. It's better to cultivate in the secret room. This way, you'll be able to practice martial arts faster. Is there anything wrong with this? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head with a wry smile. He gestured with his hand and slowly said, Hall Master Xue, a 1 meter wide secret room is only this big. Think about it. If I stay in this space for 70 or 80 years, I'm afraid I'll go crazy. Xue Zhijing shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, how is this possible? Don't forget that the one-armed saber king cultivated his peerless martial arts in this environment. If it's like what you said, then I'm afraid he'll go crazy before he even comes out. Yuan Weiqing sighed. Hall Master Xue, one-armed saber king was forced to do so. He didn't want to stay in a mountain for so long. If there wasn't a mistake in the plan, then he certainly wouldn't be willing to stay in this space for so many years. Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at Xue Zhijing and said with a wry smile, Hall Master Xue, One-Armed Saber King was forced to do so. His plan wasn't like this. Now that I have a choice, I certainly don't want to choose the path of One-Armed Saber King. I hope Hall Master Shui can understand me and don't force me. So that's how it is. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Shui Zhijing nodded and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, I understand. So One-Armed Saber King was forced to do so. It doesn't matter, I understand. After we go back, you'll also be forced to enter the secret room. Yuan Weiqing, you can rest assured that I'll take care of this matter. I'll definitely make you satisfied. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he took a step back. He stared at Shui Zhijing and asked with a trembling voice, Hall Master Shui, what do you mean? What do you want to do? Seeing that Yuan Weiqing was scared, Shui Zhijing hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to be nervous. I won't let you know about this. Maybe when you're sleeping, maybe when you're unconscious. In short, I won't let you worry. I'll definitely let you walk into the secret room unknowingly. Then, I will be forced to practice martial arts in the secret chamber. What do you think? No. Yuan Weiqing was so scared by Shui Zhijing's words that he waved his hands repeatedly. Head Shui, you can't do that. You can't do that. How could you do that? I've said that I won't go to the back room. I'll stay at home and cultivate. I definitely won't go to that 1 meter wide space. Shui Zhijing waved his hand with a smile. Yuan Weiqing, don't be nervous. Don't think about it. After we go back, I'll have people start to build the secret room. When it's almost finished, I'll come and find you. You won't find me. Maybe you'll be in the secret room when you open your eyes one day. Speaking of this, Shui Zhijing paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words, he continued. Yuan Weiqing, when you go back, eat whatever you want to eat. If you have any fun, do it quickly because you won't have time to do it once you're in the secret room. Yuan Weiqing, enjoy yourself. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said, Head Shui, I've said that I will never go to the secret room. I won't stay at home and cultivate. Head Shui, you can rest assured that my cultivation speed will definitely not let you down. Shui Zhijing shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if you don't go to the secret room to cultivate, then wouldn't the secret room that I built be wasted? After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Yuan Weiqing's heart suddenly moved. He quickly turned around and pointed at LV Hushan. He said with a smile, Head Shui, it doesn't matter. Even if I don't go to the secret room, LV Hushan can go instead of me. His martial arts are not high. It will be good for him to cultivate in the secret room for a while. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan suddenly became angry and shouted, Yuan Weiqing, what do you mean? If you don't want to go to the secret room to cultivate, why do you want me to go to the secret room to cultivate? You better explain it to me today. Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. He forced a smile and said, LV Hushan, don't you also want to cultivate? What's wrong with going to the secret room to cultivate? It can improve the speed of cultivation. I think you should be very clear about this, right? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, if the secret room is so good, why don't you go to your place to cultivate? Instead, you stay at home to cultivate? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. He then waved his hand and said with a smile, LV Hushan, how can you compare with me? Don't forget, I have a son. If I don't see him, I will miss him. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you have a son. I admit that. I also admit that I don't have a son, but I have an old mother. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words, he snorted coldly and continued. Yuan Weiqing, my old mother is already so old. I also want to spend more time with her. If I go to the secret room, how can I accompany my old mother? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing frowned. LV Hushan, what you said is wrong. Even if you go to the secret room to cultivate, you can still see your old mother. Have you forgotten that Hall Master Shui has left a vent in the secret room? You can look at your old mother from a distance through the vent. Isn't that good? Hearing this, LV Hushan became a bit annoyed. Yuan Weiqing, if that's the case, why don't you watch your son in the ventilation hole? Why do you want to watch my old mother in the ventilation hole? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, how can it be the same? Comparing an old mother and a son, which one do you think is more important? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, needless to say, of course it's the old mother. You can have as many sons as you want, but there is only one old mother. Do you understand? Who do you think is more important? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing blinked and was speechless for a while. LV Hushan was right. There is only one mother, but there could be several sons. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing was silent, LV Hushan sneered and said, Yuan Weiqing, you don't think that your son is more important than your old mother, do you? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused, and then he continued, if you think so, then pretend that I didn't say anything. Hearing LV Hushan's question again, Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, whether it is an old mother or a son, they are both very important. No matter who is superior, they're all very important. Hearing this, LV Hushan immediately glared and said with some annoyance, Yuan Weiqing, I've already told you that you can have several sons, but you can only have one mother. Why don't you understand? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, I don't care whether you can understand or not. In short, I tell you, in my heart, my old mother is more important than my son, so I have to accompany her. I can't go to the secret room to practice. If you want to go, you should go by yourself. You can also see your son in the ventilation hole. Is there anything wrong with that? Don't you think so? No. As soon as LV Hushan's voice fell, Yuan Weiqing said loudly, LV Hushan, this is absolutely not possible. In addition to my son, I have a wife. If my wife can't see me, she will definitely miss me. So, for my wife and son, I must not go to the secret room to practice. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I hope you don't miss it. You have to know how much Hall Master Shui and Vice Hall Master Zhang have sacrificed in order for you to succeed. Don't you know? Therefore, I think that you should listen to Hall Master Shui's words and obediently go to the secret room to cultivate. If you can master your martial arts as soon as possible, then you will be worthy of their efforts. Don't you understand? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Zhang Chunrin and said in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, can I not go to the secret room to practice? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, Zhang Chunrin didn't even think about it. He immediately nodded and said with a smile, of course you can. No one is forcing you to go to the secret room to practice unless you are willing to go. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was slightly relieved. He turned to look at Shui Zhizheng and asked in a trembling voice, Hall Master Shui, did you hear that? Vice Hall Master Zhang said that I can't go to the secret room to cultivate. He said that I can only cultivate in the secret room if I want to. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Shui Zhizheng did not get angry. He turned his head to look at Zhang Chunrin and said with a smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, you mean to say that Yuan Weiqing doesn't need to go to the secret room to cultivate and can still practice the peerless martial arts? Hearing Shui Zhizheng's question, Zhang Chunrin nodded, Hall Master Shui. If Yuan Weiqing takes the medicine that can increase his martial arts talent, then there is naturally no need to go to the secret room to practice. Don't you think so? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Shui Zhizheng nodded, Vice Hall Master Zhang. Since you said that there is no need to go to the secret room to practice peerless martial arts, then I will listen to you and save myself the trouble of building a secret room. After hearing Shui Zhizheng's words, Yuan Weiqing was immediately overjoyed. He hurriedly cupped his hands towards Shui Zhizheng. Hall Master Shui, don't worry. Even if I practice at home, I will definitely practice well. Don't worry, I will definitely not disappoint you. Shui Zhizheng sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I believe that you will not disappoint us. The reason why I want to build a secret room is so that you can practice peerless martial arts faster. Since you are confident that you can practice peerless martial arts without using a secret room, then I will not force you. At this point, Xue Zhijing paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to reply, he continued to speak. In that case, we are now left with the most important problem. How we catch Tianhua, don't you think so? After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, everyone was stunned for a moment. Only then did they remember that the most important problem had not been solved. All of these problems were built on the basis of capturing Tianhua. Only then could they be implemented. Whether it was 10 million gold coins, peerless martial arts, or the miraculous medicine that could change talent, they all needed Tianhua to solve. Seeing that everyone was silent, Xue Zhijing smiled and said, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, in that case, let's follow the plan just now. What do you think?" After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. "Hall Master Xue, what was our plan just now?" Xue Zhijing smiled. "How do we catch Tianhua? Now, tell me, what should our formation be?" After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren pondered for a moment before slowly saying, "Then let's follow the plan just now. Hall Master Xue and I will stay at the back and attack Tianhua with Thunderbolt pills. Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan will stay at the front and block Tianhua's attacks." After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan and Yuan Weiqing were stunned at the same time. But then, LV Hushan said loudly, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, this won't do. If I stay at the front, it will be too dangerous. I think we should change our formation." At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to reply, he continued to speak. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, Tianhua feels guilty for what he did to you. He definitely won't hurt you. I think it's better for you to stay at the front. This is the best choice." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren couldn't help but frown. "LV Hushan, why are you still saying that? Don't you know that I'll be more useful if I stay at the back?" LV Hushan shook his head. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, but it's too dangerous for me to stay at the front. Maybe Tianhua will kill me first. At that time, won't I be unable to block his attacks?" Zhang Chunren shook his head. "LV Hushan, that's impossible. Tianhua doesn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs, so he definitely won't hurt you. So you just have to stay at the front. There won't be any problems." LV Hushan sighed. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, but if there's a problem, won't I be in trouble?" Hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren was a little annoyed. "LV Hushan, why are you so timid? I really don't know what's the use of your martial arts. I've already told you that even if you stay at the front, you won't be in danger. Why don't you believe me?" LV Hushan shook his head. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, it's not that I don't believe you, but my martial arts are too weak. Even if Tianhua doesn't attack me with all his strength, I won't be able to block it. At that time, it's a small matter if they kill me, but it's a big matter if Tianhua breaks through our defensive line." Chapter 743. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. "LV Hushan, don't worry. As long as you block the front, even if Tianhua breaks through your line of defense, we won't blame you." LV Hushan shook his head. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, although you don't blame me, I blame myself. Everyone has worked so hard, but because of me, the plan failed. I'm not willing to accept this. Vice Hall Master Zhang, in order to not let our plan fail, I think it's better for me to stay at the back. Don't worry, although my martial arts are not as good as yours, my method of throwing hidden weapons will definitely not disappoint you." Zhang Chunren shook his head. "LV Hushan, you talk too much. Look, from the beginning to the end, Yuan Weiqing didn't complain at all. He went wherever he was told to go. You should learn from him about this." After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan immediately turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a bitter smile, "Yuan Weiqing, you really don't have any complaints?" Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment and then shook his head. "No." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan suddenly sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, now that things have come to this, I don't want to lie to you anymore. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, do you think that Tianhua won't hit you hard? Let me tell you, you're wrong. When you spoke to Tianhua like that just now, I think he probably already hates you. He just doesn't have the chance. If he had the chance, I believe he would definitely not let you go. Yuan Weiqing, do you believe me? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and asked in a trembling voice, LV Hushan, that's impossible. Tianhua has already beaten me to a pulp. Could he still hit me hard? LV Hushan smiled bitterly and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, don't forget why you were beaten to a pulp by Tianhua. LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer him. Instead, he snorted coldly and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, not only did you fail to ambush Tianhua, you were even crippled by him. Do you really think that Tianhua would feel guilty towards you? Impossible. Yuan Weiqing, let me tell you, as long as you stand in front of him, Tianhua will definitely attack you first, and you will definitely be killed by Tianhua. Do you understand? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. He suddenly turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and asked in a trembling voice, Vaisal Master Zhang, what LV Hushan said makes sense. If I stand in front of him, Tianhua might really attack me. At that time, my arm will be injured. Wouldn't it be very dangerous? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and turned to look at LV Hushan. He sneered and said, LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. Why would Tianhua attack Yuan Weiqing so heavily? Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer him. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and continued. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to be afraid. Tianhua isn't that kind of person. We've been here for so long. Have you seen Tianhua take the initiative to attack? No. Tianhua doesn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs, so he definitely won't attack too heavily. Why don't you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. But I did attack Tianhua first. That's why he injured me. Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, although you attacked him first, didn't we already make it clear that this has nothing to do with you? This is just a misunderstanding, so you don't have to worry. What LV Hushan said won't happen. Yuan Weiqing lowered his head and thought for a moment, then asked tentatively, Vaisal Master Zhang, can I stay at the back? I'm afraid that if I stay at the front, Tianhua will really attack me. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and turned to look at Shui Zhijing. He smiled bitterly and said, Hall Master Shui, they all want to stay at the back. What do you think? Should we let them stay at the back? Shui Zhijing shook his head. Vaisal Master Zhang, how can we do that? If they all stay at the back, who will block the front? If no one blocks Tianhua, how can we attack him? At this point, Shui Zhijing paused for a moment before continuing. It's precisely because there needs to be someone blocking in front that I told the three of you to block in front at the beginning. However, you guys kept changing your positions, and I didn't know what you guys wanted to do. Do the three of you have to solve this problem? Shui Zhijing turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, if you have anything to say, just tell Vaisal Master Zhang. As long as he can solve it, he will definitely solve it for you. Don't worry. After Shui Zhijing finished speaking to LV Hushan, he turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, do you want to stay at the front to block Tianhua? You guys can discuss it. I won't participate. If you have anything to say, just tell it to Vaisal Master Zhang. After seeing Yuan Weiqing nod, Shui Zhijing turned to look at Zhang Chunren. Vaisal Master Zhang, this matter has been settled. The three of you can discuss it. As for who will stay at the front, you three can decide for yourselves. Shui Zhijing paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to reply and continued speaking. Vaisal Master Zhang, this matter has to be done quickly because it takes too long. I'm afraid that Tianhua won't be able to wait and might run away first. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren couldn't help but frown and ask in a low voice, Hall Master Shui, how can you not care? You are our Hall Master. How can you not care? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Shui Zhijing sighed and said slowly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, Etienhua's martial arts are very strong. No matter who stays at the front, it will be very dangerous. I really can't bear to say it. You guys should decide for yourselves who should stay at the front. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, LV Hushan frowned and hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, my martial arts are weak. It's really not suitable for me to stay at the front. Let me stay at the back. What do you think? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing also hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, Etienhua's martial arts are very strong. I also have the experience of sneak attacking him. He will definitely hold a grudge against me. Once he meets me, he will definitely hit me hard. So, let me stay at the back. After hearing the two's words, Zhang Chunren's heart was angry. He sneered and said, If both of you stay at the back, who will stay at the front? After Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan heard this, they subconsciously looked at Zhang Chunren, but didn't say anything. However, the meaning of the two was obvious. They wanted Zhang Chunren to stand in front of them. Looking at the two's gaze, Zhang Chunren was a little annoyed. LV Hushan, Yuan Weiqing, let me ask you, are your martial arts better than mine? LV Hushan and Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook their heads. No, how can our martial arts be better than yours? Zhang Chunren nodded. Since your martial arts are not as good as mine, why don't you let me stay at the back to play a bigger role? Instead, you guys who can't use your martial arts to stay at the back. What's the use of that? Don't tell me that you can catch Etienhua with your low skills. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, although our martial arts are not high, don't forget that Hall Master Shui is still at the back. I believe that with his martial arts, he will definitely be able to catch Etienhua as soon as possible. Hearing the two's words, Zhang Chunren sneered. I naturally believe in Hall Master Shui's ability, but I really can't think of the use of you staying at the back. I hope you can give me an explanation. What is the use of you staying at the back? After the two heard Zhang Chunren's words, they couldn't help but be stunned. After a while, LV Hushan said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, although our martial arts are not high, after all, we still know some martial arts. Although it is not very useful, it is still useful at critical times. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Zhang Chunren and the others to answer him. Vice Hall Master Zhang, with our martial arts, if we stayed at the front, we would definitely be killed by Etienhua. If we were killed so easily by him and couldn't even block his attacks, then what's the point of us staying at the front? We might as well stay at the back and preserve our strength. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing also hurriedly nodded. Vice Hall Master Zhang, LV Hushan is right. It is useless for us to block the front. Staying at the back can ensure our strength. In this case, I don't think I should be at the front. Let me stay at the back. This is the safest way. After hearing the two's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. Yuan Weiqing, LV Hushan, do you two mean that you want me to block the front alone? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan were taken aback at the same time, but then the two nodded at the same time. Seeing the two nodding, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. Well, let me, the useful one, block the front. You useless guys run to the back and hide. Very good. I'm very satisfied with what you have done. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan to answer his words, he snorted coldly and continued. Yuan Weiqing, don't forget why we're doing this. Isn't it to get Etienhua to agree to our conditions and fulfill your wish? But what about you? Is this how you repay us? Hearing these words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. Then he said with a bitter smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, it is precisely because of this reason that I have to protect myself well. Otherwise, if I am killed by Etienhua, how can I fulfill this wish? How can I become the second one-armed saber king of the South region? Vice Hall Master Zhang, this time, let me stay at the back. consider it as giving me a chance. I will never forget you." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded. "Yuan Weiqing, if you want a chance, then I will give you this chance." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Shui Zhizhen and sneered. "Hall Master Shui, I have already thought about it. Yuan Weiqing's will is not strong enough. If he wants to practice the upper-level martial arts, I am afraid that he must need a secret room." "Hall Master Shui, how can we let you pay for the construction of the secret room alone? Both of us will pay for it. We must build a very sturdy building, so sturdy that even the one-armed saber king won't be able to break it." "Hall Master Shui, what do you think?" After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Shui Zhizhen nodded and said with a smile, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, I suddenly don't want to build a secret room because I need some money for some things, so I don't have any gold coins to build a secret room. If you want, you can build it yourself. I can help you." After hearing Shui Zhizhen's words, Zhang Chunren was so angry that he almost flew into a rage. He sneered and said, "Hall Master Shui, it doesn't matter. Since you don't have any gold coins, then I will pay for it. This is nothing." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren suddenly turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, your temper is too unstable, so I have decided to build a secret room for you to practice martial arts. What do you think?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly shocked. He asked with a trembling voice, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, didn't we just agree that I can stay at home and practice? Why do you want to build a secret room now?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sighed. "Yuan Weiqing, I thought that since we are all martial artists, your willpower should be very strong. But from what happened just now, it seems that your willpower is not strong enough. You also know that in order for you to succeed in becoming the second one-armed saber king, we will have to pay a huge price. 10 million gold coins. This is an amount that many people don't even dare to think about. Brilliant martial arts. These are things that many people in the martial arts world dream of, but can't get. There are also medicinal herbs that can increase one's martial arts talent. These are the most precious treasures in the world. Ordinary people have never even heard of them. Yuan Weiqing, these three precious things, if they are given to you with your weak will, in case you don't succeed, then all our efforts will be in vain." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words and continued speaking. "Yuan Weiqing, in order to distract your mind from practicing martial arts, so that you can truly practice the upper-level martial arts, we can only use the method that Hall Master Shui just said, which is to build a secret room. This secret room is very secure. The most important thing is that the secret room has no door. If you want to come out, you can only rely on yourself to open it. But let me tell you, if you don't have the martial arts of the one-armed saber king, wanting to come out is simply an impossible matter." Chapter 744. Zhang Chunren said slowly, "Yuan Weiqing, if there is such a secret room, I believe it will be of great help to your martial arts practice. Don't you think so?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing's forehead suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He waved his hands anxiously and said in a trembling voice, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, it's really not necessary. I have a strong will. I'll be fine as long as I practice at home. Please don't build a secret room for me. It's a waste of money and useless." Zhang Chunren didn't wait for him to finish his words and waved his hand to interrupt him. "Yuan Weiqing, it's settled. In order to ensure your safety, you can stay behind. Is that okay?" Hearing that he could stay behind, Yuan Weiqing was really surprised and happy. He was happy that he didn't have to face Yi Tianhua's attack. He was afraid that he would have to enter the secret room to practice martial arts after going back. At the thought of the horror of the back room, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but shudder as he said in a quivering voice, "Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, I think we'd better forget about the back room. It's useless. I'll just cultivate a home." Zhang Chunren shook his head and said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry, and you don't have to be afraid, because when we go back, I will put you in the secret chamber without you noticing. When you wake up, It will be dark all around, and only a small ventilation hole will have a trace of light. At that time, I believe that you will have nothing else to do except practice martial arts. You practice martial arts every day. I think your martial arts progress will be very fast. Maybe in 40 to 50 years, you will be able to successfully cultivate your martial arts. At that time, you'll be able to rely on your own profound martial arts to break out of the secret room that is trapping you. After you leave the secret room, you will become the second one-armed saber king in South County. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was scared out of his wits. He said in a trembling voice, "Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, you know that I'm very hygienic. I have to take a bath almost every day. If I don't take a bath in a back room for a long time, I might go crazy. Therefore, I think we better not waste money on building a back room. What do you think?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and looked at the sky in the distance. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry about this. There's no problem at all." Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing's reply and continued to speak. "Yuan Weiqing, think about it. That small vent is facing the outside. As long as it rains outside, water will naturally flow into the secret room through the vent. By then, won't you be able to fulfill your wish?" Hearing these words, LV Hushan on the side couldn't help but laugh out loud. However, he quickly reacted and hurriedly reached out to cover his mouth. He looked at Zhang Chunren carefully. Zhang Chunren glared at LV Hushan fiercely. "LV Hushan, what are you laughing at?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was shocked and hurriedly waved his hand. "Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, I'm not laughing. My throat was itchy just now. I wasn't laughing." Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a sneer, "LV Hushan, you don't have to laugh. Is it because you're also in the back room I built?" "What?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was taken aback. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, forget it. If you wanted to cultivate, I'll cultivate at home. I can't cultivate in the back room. I'm afraid I won't be able to bear it and will go crazy from the boredom." Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. "LV Hushan, how would you know if you haven't done it?" Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. "Maybe after you stay in the back room for a while, you'll gradually like this kind of environment. This is because this kind of environment is really effective for cultivating martial arts. Most of the people who can cultivate high-level martial arts use this method. It's like every sect has people who go into closed-door training. Their so-called closed-door training actually means this. They lock themselves in an empty room and begin to cultivate. Some people even only eat once every 7 days and drink once every 7 days. The rest of the time, they're constantly cultivating martial arts." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, I'm already very relaxed with you. At least I'll let you eat a meal every day. I won't let you eat only one meal every 7 days. Isn't this better than those who go into closed-door training?" At this moment, Yuan Weiqing was already sweating profusely. When he heard Zhang Chunren's question, he didn't know what to say for a moment. LV Hushan suddenly said, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, as you said just now, leave a small ventilation hole. When it rains, there'll be water. However, if the rain doesn't stop, then the water won't stop flowing. At that time, what if the back room is flooded?" Hearing LV Hushan's question, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. After a while, he waved his hand. "LV Hushan, you're right. If you didn't mention it, I really would have forgotten about this." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continue to speak. "Since you're afraid that the back room will be flooded, then it doesn't matter. We can put a ventilation pipe in the ventilation hole. If the back room is flooded, you can use this ventilation pipe to breathe. You should be able to get through this difficulty. I believe that no matter how heavy the rain is, it will pass in a day or two. You just need to persist in the back room for a day or two, and there should be no problem. This is not a big deal. You can rest assured. Hearing this, LV Hushan gritted his teeth. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, if the ventilation pipe is broken, what should we do? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was also taken aback. He hurriedly asked, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, LV Hushan is right. If the ventilation pipe is broken, then won't we be in danger? At that time, how can we breathe? Hearing the two's question, Zhang Chunren waved his hand and said with a smile, You can rest assured about this. I can ask him to put the ventilation pipe directly in the back room. At that time, you can check it yourself. If you find that the ventilation pipe is broken, you can immediately tell him when someone brings you food. Won't that solve the problem? Hearing Zhang Chunren's answer, LV Hushan asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, what if it starts to rain before they bring us food? Won't we be in danger then? Zhang Chunren smiled and waved his hand. LV Hushan, your worries are superfluous. Think about it. How much rain will it take to fill up such a huge backroom? You don't have to worry. Before the backroom is flooded, someone will definitely prepare food for you. At that time, you can tell them that the ventilation pipe is broken. Won't this problem be solved? What's there to worry about? Hearing Zhang Chunren's answer, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sighed. LV Hushan, I'm not worried about the ventilation pipe being broken. What I'm worried about is that the ventilation pipe is broken when it's raining heavily. At this time, there is no one outside. What should we do then? Thinking about being in a small secret room filled with water, and the two of them staying in this kind of secret room filled with water, they felt abnormally terrified. There was a kind of oppressive feeling, which made them feel so uncomfortable that they just wanted to scream out loud. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan clenched his teeth. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, this won't do. If we enter the back room, and such a situation really happens, then we're finished. So I've decided that I won't enter the back room. If you want me to practice martial arts, unless you let me practice at home, I won't practice it. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren didn't take it seriously. He just smiled faintly. LV Hushan, have you really decided? LV Hushan nodded and answered affirmatively. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I've decided that I won't practice this kind of martial arts. It can simply drive people crazy. I don't want to become a madman, so I won't practice it. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded and then sighed. LV Hushan, do you know how high one-armed Saber King's martial arts are? Hearing this, LV Hushan frowned. I don't know how high it is. I only know that one-armed Saber King's martial arts are really high. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, one-armed Saber King's martial arts are definitely in the top 3 in the South County, if not the best. So you should know how high one-armed Saber King's martial arts are, right? Hearing this, LV Hushan was suddenly shocked and asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, is it true? Is one-armed Saber King's martial arts really so high? Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a smile, LV Hushan, why would I lie to you? If you don't believe me, you can ask Hall Master Shui. He will definitely answer you. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly turned his head and looked at Shui Zhijing with an inquiring gaze. He asked in a trembling voice, Hall Master Shui, is one-armed Saber King's martial arts really so high that he could be ranked in the top 3 in the South County? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Shui Zhijing nodded. LV Hushan, this is not a lie. One-armed Saber King's martial arts are indeed very high. After he cultivated in the secret room, his martial arts are almost higher than the godly saber sex master. Hearing Shui Zhijing's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded with satisfaction. He turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, did you hear that? One-armed Saber King's martial arts are very high. The reason why he has such high martial arts is because he cultivated in the secret room. If he cultivated at home, I can tell you for sure that he would never have such high martial arts. What's more, he was already crippled at that time. It was fortunate that he could recover his martial arts. If he did not cultivate in the secret room, how could he cultivate such high martial arts? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then he did not wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. LV Hushan, one-armed saber king cultivated in the secret room for dozens of years. When he came out, he was almost invincible. Do you think it was worth it for him to cultivate for so many years? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. Worth it, absolutely worth it. To be able to reach the invincible state, even if he cultivated for 100 years, it was still worth it. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded with satisfaction. He turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, you heard it too. If you become the second one-armed saber king, it is equivalent to being almost invincible in the South County. At that time, you'll be a big figure respected by tens of thousands of people. So, I hope you will be strict with yourself and strive to reach that state. What do you think? Hearing Zhang Chunren mention one-armed saber king, Yuan Weiqing's heart suddenly surged with a warm current, making him forget the horror of the secret room. He only thought that after cultivating, he would be invincible. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you can rest assured that I will cultivate well and will not disappoint your expectations. Zhang Chunren nodded. Yuan Weiqing, although the conditions in the secret room are difficult, it will be of great help to you. Without the secret room, it will be difficult for you to succeed. However, with the secret room, your cultivation speed will be accelerated, and naturally, you will be able to succeed easily. Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I will remember. I will cultivate well in the secret room. I will not dare to slack off. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment. Thinking of what Zhang Chunren had said about one-armed saber king, he felt a little regretful. Although the conditions in the secret room were difficult, once he succeeded, the benefits he would obtain were quite huge. Thinking that he would become the top existence in the South County in the future, LV Hushan was a little excited. Zhang Chunren looked at the excited LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, it's a pity that you took the initiative to ask, not to cultivate. It's really a pity. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question. However, it's also good that you don't cultivate. We can also save a lot of resources and don't have to worry about those resources. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan remembered that Zhang Chunren had asked Yuan Weiqing to stay behind. He could not help but feel more regretful and said hurriedly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I regret it now. Can you let me cultivate too? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment and asked with some doubts, LV Hushan, didn't you just say that you don't need to cultivate? Why do you regret it now? LV Hushan scratched his head embarrassedly. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I didn't think it through just now. Now I have thought it through. I also want to cultivate martial arts and reach the state of one-armed saber king. I hope Vice Hall Master Zhang can help me and let me cultivate too. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and thought for a moment. Then he slowly said, LV Hushan, I can let you cultivate, but you have to promise me. Chapter 745. Zhang Chunren said slowly, LV Hushan, you have to promise me that when the battle starts, you have to stand in front. Do you understand? Hearing this, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing, then turned back to look at Zhang Chunren and asked doubtfully, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, why can Yuan Weiqing stay behind, but I have to stand in front? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing, then slowly said, LV Hushan, this is because Yuan Weiqing's arm is already injured. The reason why we are willing to support him and pay such a high price for him to practice martial arts is because he has done so much for us, so we are willing to help him. Now, Yuan Weiqing's fighting strength has been reduced by more than half. Even if he stands in front, I'm afraid it won't be of much use. So, Let him hide behind and throw thunderbolt balls at Etionhua. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, let me stay behind. If I stand in front, if Etionhua kills me, how can I practice martial arts? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, you haven't made any contributions yet, and you want us to pay such a high price to help you practice martial arts. Do you think we will agree? Hearing this, LV Hushan was suddenly stunned. Only then did he remember that the reason Yuan Weiqing was injured was because he sneak-attacked Etionhua. Speaking of which, this could be considered as a contribution to everyone. Thinking of this, LV Hushan hurriedly pointed at Hongda and the others in the distance and hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I also made a move just now. Without my help, how could we catch them so easily? Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you should have seen it too, right? Zhang Chunren shook his head. LV Hushan, are you injured? Hearing this, LV Hushan hurriedly turned around. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, look, my back is injured. It still hurts now. Zhang Chunren glanced at it casually and said slowly, LV Hushan, these are just some minor injuries. It doesn't matter. As long as you rest for a while, you'll naturally recover. Hearing this, LV Hushan hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren and asked, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, since I'm also injured, can I hide behind you? Zhang Chunren shook his head. LV Hushan, your injuries are so light. There's no reason for you to hide behind. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer him. He snorted coldly and continued to speak. LV Hushan, the reason why we're helping Yuan Weiqing is because he's already been crippled by Etionhua. If we don't help him, he'll probably spend the rest of his life crippled. He was crippled because of us, so we have to help him. LV Hushan, if you were also crippled now, then I would definitely let you hide in the back without saying anything, because you have also contributed to us before. But not now. You're only slightly injured and it won't affect anything. So if you want to get a chance to cultivate, you must perform well. Blocking in front is the best opportunity for you to perform. If you perform well and block Etienhua's attack, I can guarantee you that after this matter is over, I will definitely let you enter the secret room and enjoy the same treatment as Yuan Weiqing. What do you think? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan frowned. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, but if I'm killed by Etionhua, wouldn't it be a waste? Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, you didn't put in any effort, so how can you get anything? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he snorted and continued. LV Hushan, to tell you the truth, with such a good opportunity, if I say so, I believe that countless people will be willing to come here and block in front of me. LV Hushan, do you believe me? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment. After he reacted, he sighed in his heart. No matter what, he had to admit that Zhang Chunren was right. If he spread the news, as long as someone was willing to block in front of him, they could help him cultivate peerless martial arts. LV Hushan believed that there would be many people who would come here to sign up. In South County City, there were many people who were not afraid of hardships and tiredness. Even so, they did not have the chance to cultivate high-level martial arts. Now that they had the chance, LV Hushan believed that they would not let go of this opportunity to change their fate. Although LV Hushan did not answer, Zhang Chunren could tell what LV Hushan was thinking just by looking at his expression. Zhang Chunren sneered and said, LV Hushan, if you don't believe me, we can try. Also, if you don't want to block in front of me, that's fine. However, I hope you won't regret it. When you regret it, even if you beg me, it's useless. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I'm willing. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing, Vice Hall Master Zhang, are you only going to let me block in front of you? Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at LV Hushan and nodded. LV Hushan, if you agree, after this battle is over, I will build a secret room for you, so that you can cultivate peerless martial arts. At this point, Zhang Chunrin paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for LV Hushan to answer him. He snorted coldly and continued speaking. LV Hushan, it's useless to say anything else. I just want to see your performance. As long as you can block Et Tianhua, I can make the decision for you to cultivate martial arts. But if you want to hide in the back, that's fine. However, I have to tell you that even if you kneel down and beg me in the future, I won't agree. Do you understand? Hearing this, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Vaisal Master Zhang, I'm willing to block in front of you. However, I'm afraid that I can't block him alone. It doesn't matter if I'm killed by Et Tianhua, but if I delay your matter, wouldn't that be terrible? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing. Vaishal Master Zhang, why don't you let Yuan Weiqing help me? The two of us will block in front of him. I believe that with our martial arts, Et Tianhua will definitely not be able to break through our defense line. Vaishal Master Zhang, what do you think? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunrin frowned and sneered. LV Hushan, I think you alone are enough. Yuan Weiqing is now seriously injured and his combat power has decreased by more than half. Even if he goes forward to help, I'm afraid that he won't be of much help. It's better for him to stay behind and help us. That's the right thing to do. LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Vaishal Master Zhang, that won't happen. Yuan Weiqing will definitely be able to help me. At this point, LV Hushan paused and rolled his eyes before continuing. Vaishal Master Zhang, think about it. When Et Tianhua attacks us later, his first target will definitely be me. Because Et Tianhua feels guilty towards Yuan Weiqing, his first target will definitely not be Yuan Weiqing. Since Et Tianhua's first target is me, Yuan Weiqing naturally won't be in any danger. He only needs to support me from the side and not let Et Tianhua attack me with all his strength. Vaishal Master Zhang, if I'm killed by Et Tianhua, it won't be good for anyone. Therefore, Yuan Weiqing must help me with all his strength. Only by doing so can we all be safe. Don't you think so? As soon as LV Hushan finished speaking, before Zhang Chunrin could speak, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, LV Hushan, how can you say that? Have you forgotten what you just said? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan blinked. Yuan Weiqing, what did I say just now? Why don't I remember? Seeing that LV Hushan didn't admit it, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said, LV Hushan, you just said that Et Tianhua won't have any guilt towards me because the injury on my arm was my own fault. I was the one who attacked Et Tianhua first. So, Et Tianhua hurt me. He only has hatred for me in his heart. There is absolutely no guilt in his heart. Wait a minute. Et Tianhua saw me in front of him. His first target will definitely be me, definitely not you. At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his words. He snorted coldly and continued speaking. LV Hushan, I'm afraid the reason you asked me to stand in front of him with you is not so that I can support you from the side, but because you know that as long as Et Tianhua sees me, his first target will definitely be me. LV Hushan, at that time, even with you supporting me from the side, I can be sure that Et Tianhua will definitely kill me. Don't you think so? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was suddenly startled. Although he thought so, how could he say so? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, how is that possible? Why would I think so? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, later on, the two of us will block Et Tianhua. Et Tianhua's first target will definitely be me, definitely not you. Don't worry. As long as you support me from the side, there won't be any danger at all. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, I don't believe you. You've already said it very clearly just now. It's because I ambushed Et Tianhua that he hates me. When the battle starts later, his resentment towards me will definitely be greater than yours. His first target will definitely be me. LV Hushan waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. What I said just now was actually to piss you off. It's not true. It's not like you don't know what kind of person Et Tianhua is. If he was really the kind of person who would use force, he wouldn't have shown you mercy just now. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, let me ask you. With Yi Tianhua's martial arts, is it possible for him to kill you just now? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing frowned and pondered for a moment before slowly nodding his head. Yi Tianhua's martial arts are indeed powerful. If he used all his strength on me just now, I would definitely be killed by him. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, see, I'm right. Even if Yi Tianhua knew that you were ambushing him, he wouldn't use force to kill you. You should know very well what kind of person he is, right? At this point, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but immediately after, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, so you don't have to worry. Since Yi Tianhua isn't the kind of person who would use force, why would he hurt you? You just have to stay in the front. Yi Tianhua's first target definitely won't be you. You just have to help me block him from the side, and there will be no problem at all. Yuan Weiqing, if you stay in the front, my safety will be guaranteed. You also know that my martial arts aren't high. If Yi Tianhua used all his strength on me, I definitely wouldn't be able to block him. If you block him from the side, I won't be in too much danger. Even if I get injured, I definitely won't be killed by him. It's precisely because of this reason that I hope you can stay in the front to help me once, so that I won't be killed by Yi Tianhua. What do you think? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but frown. He smiled bitterly and said, LV Hushan, although what you said makes sense, what if Yi Tianhua holds a grudge against me? Wouldn't that be terrible? LV Hushan waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, how is that possible? Yi Tianhua isn't that kind of ruthless person. He hurt you just now, and the resentment in his heart has already been vented. How could he still hate you? Yuan Weiqing, you were the one who was hurt just now, not him. Even if he has a grudge, it should be you. How could it be him? Don't you think so? After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing frowned and suddenly said, LV Hushan, I think it's better to forget about it. This is all our speculation. If Yi Tianhua really holds a grudge against me, I definitely won't be able to block him. When that time comes, won't I be in trouble? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, it's not a problem for me to stay in the front, but you know how my martial arts are. I can tell you for sure that if Yi Tianhua rushes at me, I definitely won't be able to block his attack. Yuan Weiqing, once he breaks through my line of defense, the people behind may not be safe. Among the three of you, your martial arts are the weakest. If Yi Tianhua really wants to break through one by one, you are undoubtedly the best target. So, I can be sure that once Yi Tianhua breaks through my line of defense, his first target will definitely be you. Yuan Weiqing, by that time, I would have already been killed by Yi Tianhua. Naturally, no one would be able to help you. Don't tell me that you think you can block Yi Tianhua's attack with your martial arts alone? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was startled. Chapter 746. Yuan Weiqing said in a trembling voice, LV Hushan, is what you said true? If Yi Tianhua breaks through your defense, will he really attack me first? LV Hushan nodded and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, if you don't believe me, then you can try. Maybe Yi Tianhua won't be the first to attack you. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. LV Hushan, are you saying that you and I will be safer in front? Hearing that Yuan Weiqing was going to be fooled, LV Hushan was overjoyed and hurriedly nodded. Yes, as long as the two of us stay in front, no matter who Yi Tianhua attacks, we can take care of each other. There won't be any problems. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly laughed. LV Hushan, you are still lying to me. Who do you think I am? Do you think I don't know that Lu in front is the most dangerous? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he snorted coldly and continued. LV Hushan, you don't have to say that you are afraid, but you still have to scare me. What you're doing is really wrong. If we stop this operation because of your words, then who will bear the losses in this episode? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing. LV Hushan, don't say too much. You should stay in front obediently. Blocking Etianhua is your greatest contribution. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan blushed. He didn't expect Yuan Weiqing to see through his intentions and was just waiting for him to appear. Thinking of this, LV Hushan said with some annoyance, Yuan Weiqing, why should I stay in front? I have decided to stay in front with you. Otherwise, I won't agree. Yuan Weiqing shook his head and sneered. LV Hushan, if you don't agree, what do you want? LV Hushan said angrily. I also want to stay in the back. My martial arts are so weak, wouldn't it be a waste to stay in front? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, you don't want to stay in front, right? LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. Vice Hall Master Zhang, let me stay behind. I promise I won't embarrass you. Zhang Chunren nodded. Yes, but I have to tell you that if you stay at the back, even after the battle is over, you won't be able to practice any higher-level martial arts. LV Hushan, you have to think clearly. If you want to regret it, it will be too late. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was taken aback. He hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can this be? We just agreed that as long as the battle is over, you can help me practice the upper-level martial arts. How can you go back on your word now? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, the reason why we agreed to help you was that you wanted to stand in the front and make a contribution for us. Because of this reason, we decided to help you. However, you didn't want to stay in the front, so why should we help you? Am I right? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing also hurriedly said, LV Hushan, what Vice Hall Master Zhang said is right. You have not done anything yet, nor have you made any contributions. How can we support you in cultivating a high-level martial arts? LV Hushan, if you want to practice the upper-level martial arts, then stay in the front and block Etienhua's attacks for us. When the time comes, if your performance is good, we naturally won't forget you and will help you practice martial arts. But if you don't go forward to block Etienhua, then we have no obligation to help you. LV Hushan gritted his teeth. Vice Hall Master Zhang, although I really want to practice the upper-level martial arts, I also know that if I stand in the front alone with my martial arts, it is very likely that I'll be killed by Etienhua. Once I am killed by Etienhua, no matter how many chances I have, I'm afraid it will be useless. So if you want me to go forward alone to block Etienhua, I will definitely not agree. If you want me to practice the upper-level martial arts, I will definitely not agree. Unless there are more than 2 people in front of me, then I will agree. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly became anxious. He hurriedly turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, this won't do. My arm is injured and I can't use my martial arts. If I stand in front, I will definitely be killed by Etienhua. Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't let me stand in front. LV Hushan alone is enough. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at LV Hushan and asked with a smile, LV Hushan, you heard what Yuan Weiqing said just now. What do you think? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this won't do. Among the 4 of us, my martial arts is the weakest. Once I stand in front, there is an 80% to 90% chance that I will be killed by Etienhua. For my safety, we still need more than 2 people to be able to block Etienhua. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, you heard what LV Hushan said just now. What do you think? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, don't listen to LV Hushan's nonsense. Etienhua has no enmity with him. Even if he attacked him, he would never go all out. Therefore, I'm sure that LV Hushan must be very safe. Perhaps he is even safer than the 3 of us who stayed behind. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was a little annoyed. Yuan Weiqing, since you said that the front is safe, then you should stay in front to block Yi Tianhua. Why are you running to the back? Yuan Weiqing waved his hand. LV Hushan, you can't say that. You and I are different. In the battle just now, I sneak attacked Yi Tianhua, but you didn't. Even if Yi Tianhua holds a grudge because I sneak attacked him, he won't hate you because you didn't sneak attack him. LV Hushan, since you didn't sneak attack Yi Tianhua won't hate you. He definitely won't go all out against you. Don't you even understand this point? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, in fact, you should be safer than me. Think about it. Yi Tianhua has already injured you once and even crippled you. In this situation, even if Yi Tianhua's heart is cruel, he will definitely feel guilty towards you. Yuan Weiqing, since Yi Tianhua feels guilty towards you, as long as you think about it, you should know that he definitely won't go all out against you. Don't you understand this point? At this point, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but immediately after, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, listen to me. If you stay at the front, you will definitely be safer than staying at the back. If I'm lying after the battle is over, you can find me to settle the score. At that time, no matter how you hit me, I won't resist. What do you think? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, don't play with me. After the battle, if I listen to you and stay at the front, will I still have a chance to wait until the end of the battle? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, look at what you're saying. How can you not wait until the end of the battle? You can rest assured that Yi Tianhua definitely won't hurt you. However, no one can guarantee that you will be safe behind. Think about it. When Yi Tianhua first attacked, he wasn't sure how strong we were going to be. Maybe he thought that we were just scaring him. Even if he wanted to resist, it wouldn't be too intense. Therefore, you will definitely not be in danger if you stay at the front. However, when Yi Tianhua finds out that we are serious, he will definitely fly into a rage. After he passes through the defensive line, he will definitely be ruthless. Among the three of you who stay at the back, you are the one who is most likely to be attacked by Yi Tianhua. I am sure that Yi Tianhua will definitely attack you first. Do you believe me? At this point, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but immediately after, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, you also know Yi Tianhua's martial arts. Even if your martial arts were at its peak, you wouldn't be able to take one of his attacks. Moreover, your martial arts have been reduced by more than half. I'm afraid that Yi Tianhua will just wave his hand and you'll be killed. At that time, I can't think of anything that can save you this time. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing didn't immediately refute. Instead, he lowered his head and pondered. Although part of LV Hushan's words were nonsense, Yuan Weiqing was also very clear that part of his words was absolutely true. For example, once Yi Tianhua broke through the defensive line, Yuan Weiqing was certain that the first target of his attack would definitely be him. This was because he had once ambushed Yi Tianhua. Just this point alone was enough for Yi Tianhua to never forgive him. Also, he was now seriously injured. When Yi Tianhua attacked him, it would definitely be like what LV Hushan said. Yi Tianhua only needed to make a light move, and he would immediately be killed. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing's forehead gradually broke out in cold sweat. He suddenly realized that if he continued to fight with Yi Tianhua, the chances of him surviving were really not high. As for what LV Hushan said about blocking Yi Tianhua's attack from the front, Yuan Weiqing would definitely not do it. He knew that saying that the front was safe was nonsense. With Yi Tianhua's martial arts, whether it was the front or the back, as long as he fought with Yi Tianhua, it would be a dangerous place. Of course, Yuan Weiqing could be sure that although the front and the back were dangerous places, the back was still relatively safer because there was a defensive line in front. Although the defensive line wasn't solid, it could still play a great role. Everyone knew that it was absolutely impossible to let LV Hushan stay in the front alone to block Yi Tianhua's attack. Since it couldn't block Yi Tianhua's attack, Why let LV Hushan stay in the front? That was because when Tianhua rushed over, LV Hushan could at least block a little and give everyone time to escape. Don't underestimate the short time that LV Hushan could block. It was quite useful. In such a short time, everyone had enough time to run into the nearby forest. Although Tianhua's martial arts were high, he definitely couldn't use it in the forest. It was precisely because of these reasons that everyone knew that the people in the front were the most dangerous. No matter what, it couldn't change this fact. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing didn't say anything, LV Hushan thought that Yuan Weiqing was moved by his words. He hurriedly continued, Yuan Weiqing, listen to me. Staying in the front is definitely safer than staying in the back. Tianhua definitely won't use his full strength in his first attack. If the two of us work together to block his attack, it won't be a problem. Yuan Weiqing, come on, let's block the front together. We can definitely block Tianhua's attack. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, you don't have to say anymore. I understand. You should stay in the front. I'll stay in the back. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, everyone has already decided. Only you will stay in the front. Speaking up to this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but immediately after, he didn't wait for LV Hushan to reply, and continued. LV Hushan, although there's a certain amount of danger in the front, didn't you just say that compared to the back, it is at least considered safe? After this battle is over, we will definitely help you complete your goal and cultivate the upper-level martial arts. What do you think? LV Hushan shook his head. Visal Master Zhang, this won't do. How can I block the front alone? I definitely won't be able to block Tianhua's attack. We need another person. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren smiled and shook his head. LV Hushan, you don't have to worry. Even if you are crippled like Yuan Weiqing, we will still have a way to help you cultivate the upper-level martial arts. You don't have to worry. After hearing this, LV Hushan gritted his teeth and suddenly said loudly, Visal Master Zhang, since you said so, I will withdraw. I will not participate in this operation. Is that okay? Zhang Chunren frowned. LV Hushan, have you really decided? LV Hushan nodded. Visal Master Zhang, it is too dangerous for me to stay in the front alone. Rather than being killed by Tianhua, it is better for me to withdraw. At least it will be safer. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren let out a sigh. LV Hushan, now that you've made your decision, I've also made my decision. After we go back, we will only build one back room for you to cultivate in. What do you think? Speaking up to this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but immediately after, without waiting for LV Hushan to reply, he continued. There are also those spiritual herbs, medicines that can increase one's martial arts talent, and high-level martial arts. These are not fated with you. Don't tell me you really don't regret it? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, LV Hushan, you have to think carefully. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you persevere, you may become someone like the one-armed Saber King in the future. Chapter 747. Yuan Weiqing continued. LV Hushan, even if you're injured, don't worry. Hall Master Shui and Vice Hall Master Zhang will help you. You have to remember that you only have one chance. If you miss it, you'll never get it again. Don't you understand? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan suddenly hesitated. He knew that Yuan Weiqing was right. There was only one chance. If he didn't block in front, no matter how great the benefits were, he wouldn't get a share after the battle. Most importantly, even if he didn't get a share, he couldn't say anything. He even had to be humble. LV Hushan understood this logic. However, even if he understood it, he wouldn't dare to block Tianhua's attack. Tianhua's martial arts were strong. Even Hall Master Shui wasn't his opponent, let alone LV Hushan. It would be great to become a person like the one-armed Saber King, but it would be even better to live. If he was unlucky and was killed by Etienne, then everything would be over. Thinking of this, LV Hushan raised his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing. He smiled bitterly and said, Yuan Weiqing, I understand what you mean. However, I really can't block in front of him. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continue to speak. Yuan Weiqing, so I've decided that even if I can't practice upper-level martial arts, I definitely won't block Etienne. It's too dangerous. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. He thought that LV Hushan would agree, but he didn't expect to be rejected. Yuan Weiqing frowned and asked doubtfully, LV Hushan, don't you want to become a person like the one-armed saber king? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, we are all martial artists. Who doesn't want to master a high level of martial arts? However, you should know how high Etienne's martial arts are. If you let me stand in front of him, I will definitely be killed. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, if I'm killed by Etienne, no matter how many benefits there are, I'm afraid I won't be able to get them. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, you are too careful. I can tell you clearly that in the Jianghu, if someone heard that as long as they took a risk, they would be able to cultivate a high-level martial art, then I am certain that countless people would come here to sign up. Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer him. He snorted coldly and continued to speak. LV Hushan, you don't know how to cherish such a good opportunity. Instead, you keep retreating. I really feel sorry for you. Think about it. As long as you persist for a while, you could become a person like the one-armed saber king. This is something that many people dream of. If you don't want to seize this opportunity, are you going to regret it in the future? LV Hushan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, it's not that I don't want to seize this opportunity, but I also know that my martial arts are too weak. As long as I go up, I'm afraid I'll be killed by Etienne. What's the use of that? It's also because of this reason that I hope that there are at least two people in front of me. Because if there are two people taking care of each other, maybe they can really block Etienne's attack. But you want me to block Etienne alone. I really can't do it, so I can only give up. Seeing that LV Hushan was really about to give up, Yuan Weiqing's forehead gradually broke out in cold sweat. He was also very clear that if LV Hushan gave up, the task of blocking in front of him would fall on him. Although his arm was injured and his fighting strength weakened a lot, Yuan Weiqing was still certain that he would definitely be sent to the front to block Etienne's attack. Yuan Weiqing had fought with Etienne before, so he naturally knew how terrifying Etienne's martial arts were. It was also because of this reason that he didn't dare to go forward to block Etienne. He originally thought that LV Hushan would stay in front of him in order to practice the upper-level martial arts. But he never thought that LV Hushan would be so cunning that he would definitely not go forward. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing had a headache. He couldn't let LV Hushan give up because if LV Hushan went forward, he would have to go in front to block. Yuan Weiqing composed himself and said with a forced smile, LV Hushan, could it be that the upper-level martial arts are really not important to you? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, how is that possible? Who doesn't want to practice the upper-level martial arts? But if you want to practice the upper-level martial arts, you have to at least be alive. If you're killed, how can you practice? I'm afraid that you won't even be able to practice the lower-level martial arts. Yuan Weiqing frowned. LV Hushan, think about it carefully. If you persist for a while, how much benefits will you get? Do you know how many gold coins a kind of elixir that can increase one's strength costs? If you don't have this opportunity, I'm afraid that you won't even be able to get a single elixir. LV Hushan, as long as you eat that elixir, you can immediately increase your strength. Don't you know? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of light. How could he not know the effects of the elixir? Although the effects of the elixir were different, and some were strong and some were weak, the common characteristic of the elixir was that it could increase a person's strength. As long as you eat these elixirs, you can easily increase your strength. Yuan Weiqing saw that LV Hushan was somewhat tempted and hurriedly continued. LV Hushan, as long as we succeed this time, we could buy a large number of elixirs to practice the upper-level martial arts. Speaking up to here, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his words and continued to speak. LV Hushan, if you want to practice the upper-level martial arts, just the upper-level martial arts won't be enough. You must have the help of these elixirs. But most of these elixirs are quite precious. If we don't have a lot of gold coins, we won't be able to buy them. So for our future goals, LV Hushan, you should stay. Don't give up. As long as you work hard, we will definitely succeed. LV Hushan, when you become someone like the one-armed Saber King, you will be grateful to me. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I know you are saying this for my own good, but it is absolutely impossible for me to block Yi Tianhua alone. I also know that I can't block Yi Tianhua. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked tentatively, Yuan Weiqing, if you agree to block in front with me, I will stay. What do you think? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but frown. LV Hushan, why bother? I am now crippled and only have 1 or 2 levels of martial arts left. Even if I stay in front, I won't be able to help you much. I might even cause trouble for you. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused before he continued. LV Hushan, think about it. If I'm not in front, you can move freely and fight however you want. But with me, you can't. You have to cooperate with me. So I think that if I stay, I'm afraid you will be in more danger. LV Hushan, listen to me. You should stay in front alone. This is the best choice. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, I really can't do this. My martial arts are so low. Yi Tianhua can easily defeat me with one hand. How can I fight? Yuan Weiqing is different with you. The two of us, one on the left and one on the right. No matter who Yi Tianhua attacks first, he will be attacked from behind. The two of us will form a two-sided siege. He will definitely be at a loss. At that time, won't we be safer? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing's frown deepened. He waved his hand. LV Hushan, listen to me. You can't be wrong. If I stay in front, I won't be able to help you. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer, he continued. LV Hushan, just like you said just now, when Yi Tianhua attacks us, he will be easily attacked from behind. I admit that you are right. But don't forget that I am now seriously injured. I don't have much martial arts left. If the two of us are in front, once Yi Tianhua attacks us, even if he attacks you first with my current martial arts, even if I see it, Yuan Weiqing won't be able to stop it in time, let alone attack from both sides. So, I think that once Yi Tianhua attacks, LV Hushan, you should use a guerrilla tactic. This is the safest way. Don't you think so? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was stunned. He suddenly realized that Yuan Weiqing's words seemed to make sense. When Yi Tianhua rushes over, why should he fight him head-on? He couldn't beat him. If he fought him head-on, wouldn't he be looking for trouble? But if he followed Yuan Weiqing's words and used a guerrilla tactic, it would really be safer. When Yi Tianhua rushes over, I just need to dodge. Why should I block him like an idiot? After understanding this point, a smile appeared on LV Hushan's face. He looked up at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, you are right. I really forgot this point. When Yi Tianhua rushes over, why should I fight him head-on? Can I just dodge? As long as I dodge, how can Yi Tianhua hurt me? In that case, Yuan Weiqing, I have decided to stay. Hearing LV Hushan's decision to stay, Yuan Weiqing was overjoyed. He quickly said with a smile, LV Hushan, it's great that you can understand this point. Congratulations. After this battle, we can immediately practice the upper-level martial arts. After saying this, Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said jokingly, LV Hushan, when the time comes, We should compete to see who can practice martial arts faster. What do you think? After LV Hushan knew that he was safe, his mood relaxed a lot. Seeing Yuan Weiqing joking with him, he smiled and said, Yuan Weiqing, you can rest assured. When the time comes, we must have a good competition and see who can cultivate martial arts faster. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing was even more happy. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly heard Zhang Chunren snort. LV Hushan, what did you just say? When Tianhua rushes over, you're going to use a guerrilla tactic, right? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, you are right. As long as Tianhua attacks me, I will immediately use a guerrilla tactic. I believe that Tianhua can't hurt me. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, although Tianhua can't hurt you, you can't stop him either. Speaking up to this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. But immediately after, he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question. He sneered and continued. LV Hushan, I sent you to the front to block Tianhua and not let him rush to the back. However, when you saw him rush over, you said that you were going to use a guerrilla tactic. But in fact, when you saw Tianhua rush over, you turned around and ran. LV Hushan, it doesn't matter if you run, but who will block Tianhua? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed. He did have this idea just now. As long as Tianhua rushed over, he would immediately turn around and run. Tianhua definitely wouldn't be able to catch up with him. However, such a perfect plan was seen through by Zhang Chunren. This wasn't good. LV Hushan forced a smile and said, Vice Hall Leader Zhang, how can I turn around and run? I am using a guerrilla tactic. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, do you know about guerrilla tactics? Speaking up to this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment. But immediately after, he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question and continued. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, let me tell you, the guerrilla tactic is to avoid direct contact with the enemy. This is very suitable for a battle where the enemy is strong and I am weak. Instead, I will attack the enemy from the side. This way, you can pin down the enemy and not let the enemy attack you. You might even have an opportunity to injure the enemy. This is simply killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, this method is definitely not the kind of turn around and run that you mentioned. It is a tactic. Hearing LV Hushan's explanation, Zhang Chunren sneered and waved his hand. LV Hushan, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I just want to ask you, once you use guerrilla tactics to run, will Tianhua rush to the back? Then let me ask you, who will block Tianhua? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, Vice Hall Leader Zhang, I don't think so. If I use this tactic, I should be able to pin down Tianhua and prevent him from breaking through my defense line. So, Vice Hall Leader Zhang, you can rest assured. Chapter 748. Zhang Chunren sneered. LV Hushan, your mission at the front is to block Tianhua and not let him rush over. But if you run away and Tianhua rushes over, how can I be at ease? Yuan Weiqing also hurriedly said, LV Hushan, is the guerrilla tactic you mentioned really to escape? Hearing the two's question, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. How is that possible? You also know that my martial arts are not high. If I fight Tianhua head-on, I definitely won't be his opponent. I might not even be able to take one move from him. How can I stop him? But if I use this method to fight Tianhua, I will be able to last for a long time. As long as I block in front, how can Tianhua rush over? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. What's more, even if Tianhua rushes over, I'm still behind him. As long as I attack him from behind, he'll definitely turn around to face me. At that time, won't you all be safe? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Zhang Chunren and asked with a frown, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what do you think? Zhang Chunrin sneered. LV Hushan, I only know that if you run away, there will be no one in front to block Etianhua. At that time, the three people behind us will definitely be attacked by Etianhua. More importantly, once Etianhua attacks us, our attack on him will naturally stop. Since we can't attack, how can we catch Etianhua? Zhang Chunrin turned to look at LV Hushan and sneered. LV Hushan, you block in front. Don't use your tactic. You only need to block Etianhua. That's enough. Do you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan was shocked and asked quickly, Vice-Hall Master Zhang, you mean to say that I should block Etianhua from the front? Zhang Chunrin nodded. That's right, LV Hushan. You have to block Etianhua's attack head-on. As for the tactic you mentioned, it's useless. Other than allowing Etianhua to come over, it won't help us at all. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's answer, LV Hushan frowned. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, it's impossible for me to block Etianhua from the front. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunrin to answer his question and continued to speak. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, you know my martial arts. If we were to fight head-on, how could I block Etianhua's attack by myself? Vice-Hall Master Zhang, I think I should use that kind of guerrilla warfare to block Etianhua's attack. Zhang Chunrin sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, you want to use that method just to make it easier for you to escape. I will never agree to that. Since you have decided to stay in the front, you must block Etianhua for me. Do you understand? LV Hushan shook his head. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, my martial arts are definitely not Etianhua's match. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunrin frowned. LV Hushan, I'm not asking you to catch Etianhua. I'm just asking you to block him. What's so difficult about that? Even if your martial arts are not as good as his, it shouldn't be difficult for me to do this, right? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, if my martial arts are not Etianhua's match, how can I block him? Zhang Chunrin sighed. LV Hushan, did you forget what we said just now? If you want to block Etianhua's attack, you don't have to rely on martial arts. Do you understand? LV Hushan shook his head. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, I'm not familiar with Etianhua. Other than martial arts, what else can I do to block him? Zhang Chunrin clenched his teeth. LV Hushan, you said it yourself. Etianhua definitely won't be heavy-handed in his first attack because he doesn't know what we're trying to do. Since Etianhua won't be heavy-handed in his first attack, you naturally won't be in danger during his first attack. By the time the second attack comes, the three of us might have already defeated Etianhua. At that time, won't you be safe? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, this is just your excuse. If you can't defeat Etianhua in such a short time, won't I be killed by him when he launches his second attack? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Zhang Chunrin shook his head. LV Hushan, in the first attack, Etianhua won't be heavy-handed, so you'll be safe. But in the second attack, Etianhua has already been injured by us. Even if he launches a second attack, it won't be very powerful. As long as you block it with all your strength, I believe that you won't die in the second attack. LV Hushan, trust me, my calculations won't be wrong. Stand in front. As long as you block 2 attacks with all your strength, we'll definitely be able to defeat Etianhua. Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan frowned. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, what if your guess is wrong? What if Etianhua uses all his strength in the second attack? What should I do? Zhang Chunrin waved his hand. LV Hushan, don't worry. I can guarantee that even if Etianhua attacks you twice, there won't be any problems. He won't be able to hurt you. Looking at the confident Zhang Chunrin, LV Hushan was extremely unconfident. He didn't believe Zhang Chunrin's words because he knew how high Etianhua's martial arts were. Even if Etianhua was seriously injured, he could probably kill him with a wave of his hand. How could LV Hushan be at ease when the difference in strength between the two sides was so great? Thinking of this, LV Hushan sighed and said slowly, Vice-Hall Master Zhang, if you want me to use guerrilla tactics, I can block in front. But if you want me to fight Etianhua head-on, then please forgive me for not being able to do it. LV Hushan turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a bitter smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, if you're not satisfied with my method, then please find someone else. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren couldn't help but frown. LV Hushan, you really won't regret it? LV Hushan smiled bitterly. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this is no longer a matter of regret. If I'm killed by Etianhua, I'm afraid I won't even have the chance to regret it. If I don't participate in this operation, although I may regret it in the future, I will at least have the chance to regret it. Between the two, I choose the latter. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren suddenly sighed. LV Hushan, I originally planned to find you a medicine that can increase your martial arts talent. It seems that we don't need it anymore. We only need to find a medicine that can increase your martial arts talent. That's enough, don't you think? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer, he continued. LV Hushan, you have to know that the medicine that can increase martial arts talent is definitely very rare. Even if you want to find one, I'm afraid it's extremely difficult, let alone two. However, I don't have to worry about it now because I don't need to find it for you. I only need to find one and give it to Yuan Weiqing. Don't you think so? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan gritted his teeth and felt a little regret. He had only heard of this medicine that could increase martial arts talent, but he had never seen it before. With his status, he really didn't have the qualifications to see such a precious medicinal herb. He heard from others that this medicine that could increase martial arts talent was very rare in the world. This was because the effect of this medicine was really heaven-defying. It could actually turn a person with a low martial arts talent into a person with extremely high martial arts talent. LV Hushan was a person who practiced martial arts. He naturally knew that a person's martial arts talent would determine their future achievements. The higher one's martial arts talent was, the higher one's achievements would be. Everyone knew this. Therefore, those with low martial arts talent would be extremely jealous of those with high martial arts talent. If there was such a medicine that could change martial arts talent, LV Hushan was certain that everyone would fight over it. Now, he actually had the opportunity to use the medicine that could change martial arts talent. This was simply like a dream. Although the chances of obtaining this medicine were not very high, this was still an opportunity. LV Hushan knew very well that if he relied on himself, he would never have the chance to see this medicine in his life. However, with the help of Deputy Hall Chief Zhang and Hall Chief Shui, as well as Etianhua, he might really be able to find this medicine. Don't forget that Etianhua was the boss of the Shadow Alliance in South County. He could order the Shadow Alliance to find these medicinal herbs. The Shadow Alliance was an alliance that specialized in finding things. With their help, there might really be a glimmer of hope. LV Hushan thought that if he really found this medicine in the future, it would be used by Yuan Weiqing because he didn't participate in the battle. From then on, Yuan Weiqing's martial arts talent had changed. With the support of many spiritual herbs and brilliant martial arts, he believed that it wouldn't be long before he could break out of seclusion and become an expert of his generation. When he thought of this, LV Hushan felt a little upset. He secretly hated the people in front of him for being unfair to him. Yuan Weiqing could hide in the back, but why did he have to block in front? LV Hushan was displeased. He wanted to give up this opportunity, but he was also a little reluctant because he knew very well that this was his only chance. Most importantly, if he withdrew this time, how could he continue to stay in the secret thunder sect of South County? Perhaps after leaving this place, it would be the time for him to withdraw from the secret thunder sect of South County. LV Hushan knew that once he left the secret thunder sect of South County, he would really be nothing. Zhang Chunren, who was at the side, saw LV Hushan's expression and sneered in his heart. He knew that LV Hushan was already a little tempted. No matter what the reason was, LV Hushan was a little tempted. LV Hushan, you have to think carefully. As long as you persevere through this, your future will be bright. However, if you really want to withdraw, I can guarantee that you will regret it in the future. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan said with a bitter smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I know that, but if you let me block in front alone, how can I block it? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question and continued to speak. Vice Hall Chief Zhang, Etienne's martial arts are so powerful that even Master Shui is no match for him. Needless to say, my martial arts are far inferior to Hall Chief Shui's. How can I block Etienne's charge? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren waved his hand and said with a smile, LV Hushan, do you believe me? At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer him. LV Hushan, I can tell you clearly that if you block in front, you will only be able to last 2 rounds at most. This battle should be over. We have already said that Etienne will not be too harsh on you in the first round of attacks, so you should not be worried. What you should be worried about is the second round of attacks. LV Hushan, I also admit that the second round of attacks is indeed dangerous, but don't forget that everything in this world is dangerous. There is no such thing as a free lunch. LV Hushan, if you want to cultivate high-level martial arts, you will need a large amount of spiritual herbs, as well as herbs that can increase your martial arts talent. Think about it. How much will we have to pay to nurture you? Now is the time for you to perform. If you perform well, we will definitely support you fully. Of course, if you want to give up, I will definitely not stop you, because there are too many people who want to benefit from this. As long as I spread the news, there will be plenty of people who will come here to block Etienne Hua for us. LV Hushan, do you think that those who are willing to block Etienne Hua in front of us are all stronger than Etienne Hua? No, that is impossible. Their martial arts are definitely not stronger than Etienne Hua's, but why are they willing to take such a risk? It is because they are very clear that although it is dangerous to block in front, they also know that once they succeed, they will gain even more benefits. LV Hushan, do you still not understand that the more you give, the more you will gain? I have said so much. If you still want to give up, then I will definitely not stop you, because you are too unambitious. We also do not want to nurture such a person. Do you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and suddenly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I am not convinced. Since Yuan Weiqing and I both want to cultivate high-level martial arts, why can he hide in the back while I have to block in front? After hearing this, Zhang Chunren smiled slightly and said faintly, LV Hushan, I am doing this for your own good. Do you still not understand? LV Hushan looked at Zhang Chunren with some doubt. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you're saying that this is for my own good. Chapter 749. Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a smile, LV Hushan, I'll tell you the truth. Even if we have 10 million gold coins, it's impossible to use all of them to buy elixirs. This is because these gold coins still need to be used to buy other things, such as elixirs that can increase one's martial arts talent and high-level martial arts. This means that the amount of gold coins that can be used to buy elixirs is not much, so the elixirs that can be bought are naturally limited. At this point, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but immediately after, he did not wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued speaking. LV Hushan, for example, if you buy a total of 5 elixirs, and there are 2 people who want to distribute them, then let me ask you, how should you distribute them? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan immediately said, Of course, the person who contributes the most will get more. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded. LV Hushan, you're right. The person who contributes the most will get more. Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, for the 5 elixirs, the person who contributes the most will get 3 elixirs, and the person who contributes the least will only get 2 elixirs. Am I right? At this point, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but immediately after, he did not wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued speaking. LV Hushan, don't underestimate an additional elixir. With each additional elixir, One's strength will increase by a lot. With an increase in strength, the speed of martial arts cultivation will naturally be faster. A person who takes 2 elixirs may need 80 years to cultivate to the upper level of martial arts. However, a person who takes 3 elixirs will only need 60 years to cultivate to the upper level of martial arts. With this comparison, LV Hushan, you should understand the usefulness of an additional elixir, right? Hearing this, LV Hushan suddenly understood and hurriedly asked, Vice-Hall Master Zhang, you mean that if I block in front, I can get 3 elixirs? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Zhang Chunren smiled and nodded. What do you think? Although Zhang Chunren did not answer directly, LV Hushan had already understood and was immediately overjoyed. Just as he was about to speak, Yuan Weiqing suddenly spoke. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, I don't agree. Although it is important for LV Hushan to block in front, I also contribute to everyone. Have you forgotten how my arm was injured? At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused, but immediately after, he did not wait for Zhang Chunren's words. He raised his injured arm and continued speaking. Look, isn't the injury on my arm serious enough? Don't tell me that such a serious injury doesn't count as a great contribution. So, I think that even if LV Hushan is in front of me, when it comes to dividing the spiritual herbs, I should get the most. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, don't you think so? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. He turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, you've heard what Yuan Weiqing said, right? His contribution is not small, but you haven't made any contribution yet. Therefore, you shouldn't have any complaints about being in the front, right? LV Hushan shook his head and said, Vice-Hall Master Zhang, if I'm in the front and get more spiritual herbs, I'll accept it. But if I get less spiritual herbs than Yuan Weiqing, I won't agree. As soon as LV Hushan finished speaking, Yuan Weiqing did not wait for Zhang Chunren to speak and said first, LV Hushan, although you are blocking in front, there is no danger. How can you compare with me? Don't forget that in order to sneak attack Yi Tianhua, my arm was crippled by him. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you actually dare to say that there is no danger in blocking in front. Fine, I will block in front, and you block Yi Tianhua. At that time, even if you get more elixirs than me, I will have no complaints. What do you think? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. LV Hushan, how can we do that? Vice-Hall Master Zhang, the allocation has already been decided. How can we change it? LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you want more elixirs, but you don't want to block Yi Tianhua in front. How can there be so many good things in the world waiting for you? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, you have 2 choices now. 1, you can stand in front and block Yi Tianhua's attacks for us. When the time comes, you can get a bigger share of the spiritual herbs. I won't have any complaints about that. The second choice is that you stay at the back. Of course, when the elixirs are divided, you will get less elixirs than me. What do you think? Yuan Weiqing, you choose. No matter which option you choose, I will support you. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly stunned. For a moment, he was speechless. He did not want to choose either of the 2 options that LV Hushan mentioned, because he was very clear that no matter what, the person in front was the most dangerous person. However, just because he did not block in front, when the elixirs were divided, he was not willing to get less. Because Zhang Chunren was right. Even if he had 10 million gold coins, there was a limit to the number of elixirs that could be bought. Most importantly, when the elixirs were divided, sometimes there was no way to divide them equally. If he was given an extra elixir, the cultivation time would be greatly reduced. Originally, it would take 80 years to cultivate a martial art. After taking an extra elixir, he might be able to cultivate it in 60 years. This was reducing his cultivation time by 20 years. In that 1-meter-wide secret chamber, Yuan Weiqing was not willing to stay for even a moment, let alone 20 years. If it was possible, Yuan Weiqing wished that he could go to the secret chamber today and cultivate it tomorrow. Therefore, no matter what, the elixirs could not be divided less. This would affect a lot of time. The most important thing was that if two people cultivated martial arts together, one person would still be in the secret chamber practicing hard while the other person, because he had taken an extra elixir, reduced his cultivation time, and had already cultivated a high-grade martial art. He would have rushed out of the secret chamber and be free and unfettered outside. When he thought of this result, Yuan Weiqing's heart was somewhat unbalanced. If he cultivated by himself, no matter how fast or slow his cultivation speed was, no one would be able to compete with him. But if two people cultivated together, there would be competitors. Once the cultivation speed was slow, even if the cultivation was successful, it would take a long time and it would definitely be a loss of face. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing looked up at LV Hushan and slowly said, LV Hushan, even if you blocked in front, you did not suffer any injuries. Therefore, your contribution is definitely not as big as mine. Do you understand? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, the battle has not started yet. How do you know that I won't be injured? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment before he continued. Maybe my injuries are more serious than yours. What should we do then? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, this is impossible. Even if Yi Tianhua attacked you, he would never attack you with full strength. How could you be injured? LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, why can't I be injured? Why can't Yi Tianhua attack me with full strength? Could it be that Yi Tianhua is my relative, so he won't attack me with full strength? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing's expression suddenly changed. He wanted to defend himself, but there was nothing he could say. He could only turn his head to look at Zhang Chunren and quickly say, Vice Master Zhang, you saw my performance just now. I ambushed Yi Tianhua just now. If it wasn't for my good luck, I might have been killed by him. I have already done such a dangerous thing. My contribution should be quite high, right? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, of course it's not low. You're so seriously injured. How can I say that your contribution is not enough? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. However, Yuan Weiqing, although your contribution is also very high, don't forget that LV Hushan will be blocking in front and blocking Yi Tianhua's attack for us. You also know Yi Tianhua's martial arts. Can you guarantee that LV Hushan will not be seriously injured? What if LV Hushan is more seriously injured than you? Doesn't that mean that his contribution is greater than yours? Don't you think so? Hearing this, LV Hushan was shocked. He turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, if you are not satisfied, the two of us can switch positions. You block in front and I will stay behind. When it is time to split the spiritual herbs, I will definitely not fight with you. What do you think? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing frowned and thought for a long time. Suddenly, he raised his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, I am now seriously injured. If you want me to block in front alone, I will definitely not be able to block Yi Tianhua's attack. Who knows? I might even ruin everyone's plan. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing. LV Hushan, why don't we do what we said just now? The two of us will block in front. When Yi Tianhua attacks us, the two of us will attack Yi Tianhua from the left and right. I believe that Yi Tianhua will be worried about the two of us attacking together. He will definitely not be able to deal a heavy blow. At that time, both of us will be safe. LV Hushan, what do you think of this idea? If you agree, we will do it like this. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, this won't do. I can't agree. If you want to stay in front, then you can stay behind. I will go to the back. If you don't want to stay in front, don't regret it when it is time to split the spiritual herbs. After Yuan Weiqing heard this, he was stunned. He did not expect that LV Hushan's idea would be rejected at this moment. Yuan Weiqing had already calculated that if they followed LV Hushan's plan, the two of them would stand in front of him. Even if the two of them did not suffer any injuries after the battle ended, Yuan Weiqing was sure that he would be able to get a bigger share of the elixirs. Because Yuan Weiqing also blocked in front, it could be considered a merit. Then, he sneak-attacked Yi Tianhua in advance and was injured by Yi Tianhua. This should also be considered a merit. Therefore, after calculating, he had 2 shares of merit, while LV Hushan only had 1 share of merit. Therefore, when the spirit herbs were distributed, he would definitely be able to obtain more spirit herbs. The most important thing was that if the two of them stayed in front, the danger would be reduced by half. This was because no one knew who Yi Tianhua's first target would be. Although the analysis just now was very thorough, after all, it was just a random guess. Who could really guarantee who Yi Tianhua would attack first? If Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan stayed in front, then the chances of them being attacked would only be half. It was because of these reasons that Yuan Weiqing decided to agree to LV Hushan's initial plan. But he never thought that although he agreed, LV Hushan would not agree. Yuan Weiqing would never agree to let him stand in front of Yi Tianhua. He was only left with 20% or 30% of his martial arts. Given his current level of martial arts, Yuan Weiqing was sure that even if Yi Tianhua attacked him with all his might, he would still be killed. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing frowned. He raised his head and looked at LV Hushan. He smiled and said, LV Hushan, you have to think carefully. If the two of us stay in front, we can form a situation where we are surrounded. At that time, no matter who Yi Tianhua wants to attack, he will be attacked from behind. So his attack will definitely not be too strong. If we cooperate like this, wouldn't it be better than fighting alone? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if you want to stay in front, I will not refuse. I will also not fight with you. I will let you stay in front. If you don't want to stay in front, then you could go to the back. I will stay in front. However, I hope you won't regret it in the future. Hearing that LV Hushan still did not agree, Yuan Weiqing was a little annoyed. LV Hushan, why are you so stubborn? If one person stays in front, it will be really dangerous. But if the two of us stay in front, this kind of danger will be reduced a lot. Don't you understand? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, do you think I don't understand? You are wrong. I understand everything. It is because I understand that I will definitely not stay in front with you. Do you understand? Yuan Weiqing could not help but frown. LV Hushan, what do you mean? Why don't you want to stay in front with me? This is good for both of us. Is there something wrong with that? LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, if I stay in front with you, then the credit of blocking in front will belong to the two of us. However, you have more contribution than me in the sneak attack on Yi Tianhua. So, if I stay in front, I will only help you block Yi Tianhua and increase the danger. I will not get more elixirs. Do you think I don't know that? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.